Hey there, Internet. I'm Annie.
I'm Kit.
And I'm Mac.
And this is I Will Fight You, a podcast where we've been turning opinion into stone-cold facts since 1986. Today's fact: Christmas is a time to focus on the Holy Trinity of Gaslight, Gatekeep, and Girlboss.
Oh god, I'm glad you also got that reference in, because that was just passing through my head the whole time Fiona was ever on screen.
All three of them! I've been sitting there and trying to assign which one of them is Gaslight, which one of them is Gatekeep, and which one is Girlboss. Gaslight is not Gatekeep, is not Girlboss, but all of them are the Princess Switch. Hi, folks. We're talking about not one, but 3 Christmas rom-coms. Sort of. Today, we're talking about the Princess Switch trilogy.
One of the lesser-known trilogies in the literary canon.
Now, you might say, The Prince and the Pauper. That one doesn't really have legs, does it? Once you pass the initial premise. And these people said, no, fuck you.
We're going to keep coming with increasingly implausible reasons why these characters played by the same actor need to constantly be switching places.
So these are a trilogy of Netflix holiday rom-coms. We've talked about this Netflix foray into these briefly. Go check out our episode with Jody Troutman when we just did a roundup of a bunch of different Hallmark rom-com movies. Was that just last year, or was that the year before?
That was just last year.
That was just last year, yeah.
Oh man, dang. But this time we're focusing on the Princess Switch movies, which is the Princess Switch switched again, and the Princess Switch romancing the star. What you have to understand is that this is a boilerplate, stock standard, 2 people look exactly the same, but one of them's wealthy, switch places, and then fall in love movie. This is a Prince and the Pauper romance story.
You know the Prince and the Pauper? You know the Barbie version of Prince and the Pauper?
Yeah.
Put Vanessa Hudgens in that, you're done. And it's Christmas.
Yeah, it's easy, simple. The second one, what if we switched again for some reason and introduced a third Vanessa Hudgens? And then the third one, which is, what if all 3 Vanessas Hudgens did a heist?
I think you're maybe overstating the involvement of 2 of the Vanessas Hudgens in that heist.
Still. The important thing is that all 3 of them have to now switch. On purpose. These are 3 movies that are all directed and written by the same people. They're all directed by Mike Roll, who's done a bunch of low and mid-budget movies and TV, including 12 episodes of Eureka, 10 episodes of Supernatural, and 15 episodes of Smallville.
So this guy lives in Vancouver. This guy lives in Vancouver. He's like, I'm not fucking moving for any reason whatsoever. I don't even want to get on a plane to do a job somewhere else for a couple of months. I'm never fucking leaving Vancouver.
I'm not even getting on the ferry to Victoria.
Nope.
There are 2 writing credits here. The main one is Robin Barenheim, who wrote all 3 of these movies. I think wrote at least one of the Christmas Prince movies, which is one of Netflix's other, Christmas rom-coms.
Which also gets a product placement in the first Princess Switch movie.
It does.
I was sitting there watching it going, did this Netflix romantic Christmas comedy just product place another Netflix romantic Christmas comedy?
Oh, kid, it gets weirder. Just wait. You wouldn't have been able to tell this one.
Oh, God.
Robin Barenheim also has been a TV writer for a long time and a producer. Wrote episodes of Quantum Leap, Star Trek Next Gen, Voyager, Extreme Ghostbusters, the Men in Black cartoon are among her many credits. She was also a producer for most of those shows as well. And then in the last 5 or 6 years, it's oh, Christmas rom-coms are really steady income and make a bunch of money, huh?
That is a Christy Marks level of showing up in random-ass places on TV.
For real.
Christy Marks did a Babylon 5 episode.
Christy Marks did a Beast Wars episode.
Beasties!
Thank you for translating for our Canadian audience.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that, Mackenzie.
You're welcome. Had to make sure that Kit understood, too.
Just, Kit, I don't know if you knew this.
What's this show, Beast Wars?
Beasties! It's called Beast Wars.
I love that we're this punchy 7 minutes in.
The other writing credit is Megan Metzger, who has only had full writing credits on the Princess Switch movies, but was a writing assistant on When Calls the Heart over on Hallmark. So, like,
oh, God.
I assume this person was just brought in for, like, a make it more Hallmark rewrite.
We need a Hallmark pass on the script.
Exactly, the Hallmark pass, which is like a hall pass, but for Hallmark. There's other people in this movie, but the person that's in this movie the most by volume is Vanessa Hudgens.
Yeah, like, for, like, easily 99% of the screen time, any given moment, there is a Vanessa Hudgens on screen.
Or someone who is being a body double for Vanessa Hudgens.
Yes. This is like Orphan Black levels of, like, multiple Vanessa's Hudgens on screen.
Just to clarify, this is Vanessa Hudgens, who became famous for starring as Gabriella in the High School Musical movies. So, like, I don't know, Lucas, you can probably drop some High School Musical thing in here. I only saw the first one. Don't at me.
What team? Wildcats! What team? Wildcats! What team? Wildcats! Wildcats!
But she also, more relevant to this podcast because it feels like the kind of thing we would probably cover eventually. She was also the female lead in the 2011 film Beastly.
Oh my god, she was. I forgot
Yep.
that movie existed.
Yep.
We gotta cover Beastly at some point.
We gotta do Beastly at some point. Holy shit. This is a Beauty and the Beast movie about a boy who has magic tattoos that make him hideous and unable to be loved.
Which one of the Olsen twins was in that one, or was it with both?
Yeah, one of the Olsen twins was in it. I think it was Mary Kate.
Yeah, as an evil witch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who's also like a scene girl. It's extremely hot topic in the 2011 film Beastly.
Everyone was like, hey, you know how Twilight made $1 billion?
Guess what? I've got a great idea for a movie and then also a hit video game.
Oh god, remember when there was just a Wii game tie-in to literally every fucking thing?
To literally everything. It was like coming off of the heels of like the Nintendo 64 and GameCube era. And it was like, okay, we need a DS game, we need a Wii game. And like I said, there's other actors in this movie.
We don't care about them, though.
We're here for Vanessa Hudgens.
With one notable exception from the third one.
Yes, we're mostly here for Vanessa Hudgens.
And Vanessa Hudgens, and also Vanessa Hudgens.
I don't think we really need a background on this. I've watched these before. Mackenzie, you've watched these before. Kid, I think this was your first exposure.
This was my first exposure. I watched the whole first one immediately after I finished watching Do the Right Thing for the first time, so that was some fucking whiplash.
Hey, Sal, how come you got no brothers on the wall here?
Those are some very different corners of cinema.
Yes, yeah. Extremely, like, free-form jazz-like movie about racial tensions in uptown New York, followed by the fucking Princess Switch. And then I got, like, 2/3 into the second one before I was like, I know where this is going, I don't need to keep watching. And then I watched the third one today.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
My problem is, I have watched these before, and I've also watched The Christmas Prince before, and all three of those.
They're so interchangeable.
While watching this, I kept going, oh, and this is the part where the evil guy shows up, and he and the kid actor work together, and then I'm like, wait, no, that's The Christmas Prince. That's Christmas Prince.
Have these all just, like, blended into a slurry inside of your brain?
Yes, they've all been blended into a slurry inside my brain.
Except for The Night Before Christmas. That one's a bit more of a standout.
Yeah, that one stands out and also stars Vanessa Hudgens.
Is she also in that one?
Yeah, she's the main lady.
Is she? I thought that was a Lacey Chabert joint. Or am I thinking of Hot Frosty?
You might be thinking of Hot Frosty.
Night Before Christmas,
Night
2019.
Before Christmas.
Does Netflix just have Vanessa Hudgens
Oh
on
my
retainer?
god, you're right. That is
See?
another Vanessa Hudgens. Fuck. Okay, crossover with Night Before Christmas and the three Vanessas Hudgens. Four Vanessas.
Four Vanessa's Hudgens, and one of them is a teacher who dates a knight.
Perfect. Anyway, this one though, when there's only two Vanessas Hudgens.
Or three?
Let's start in on the first one. Again, there's not a whole lot of meat on the bones of the first one and like a lot of the second one. So this might be a little breezy. So the first Princess Switch is a movie, doesn't take place in Chicago except for like 5 minutes of it. But obviously it opens on a Chicago montage because that's what you do with a Christmas rom-com movie. This one came out, by the way, in 2018. Keep an eye on those dates there because that's going to explain a lot later.
Yeah, those release dates are going to get interesting. They do spend a lot of time on the Chicago skyline over Christmas, despite the fact that this movie, for the most part, does not take place in Chicago, which again makes me wonder if the city of Chicago put some money in like they did with Jupiter Ascending.
I hope the city of Chicago is that kind of patron of the arts. So we open with our first Vanessa Hudgens. I believe she's the girl boss of the trilogy.
Yes, this is the girl boss.
Definitely. She's definitely the girl boss of the trilogy.
She runs Stacy's Sweets and Treats, which is maybe one of the worst named bakeries in Chicago.
You're not even going to do a pun?
No, just Sweets and Treats. They rhyme, right?
Well, I figure if you're running a bakery in Chicago, it's either got to be a pun or it's got to be a reference to the Cubs. One of those two things.
She also runs it with Kevin, who is this movie's hottie we'll pretend isn't really a hottie. He's a single dad. He has a young daughter named Olivia, who's precocious.
Oh, there's always the precocious child in these.
You gotta have the precocious child.
You gotta have the precocious child. It's important.
Kevin is, let's be clear, Kevin is farmer's market hot.
Yes. Wait, elaborate.
Okay, so farmer's market hot is like, it's not the kind of hot where you look at that person and you go, oh yeah, I want to like, do various erotic novel things with them. You look at that person, you're like, that person makes me want to settle down. You see them across the farmer's market at like the organic honey stand or whatever, and you think to themselves, I want to move to a homestead with that person.
Yes. Kevin is basically one flannel shirt away from being an LL Bean boyfriend.
Yes. Especially once he grows a beard in the second one.
Oh, the beard
Absolutely.
is so much better on him.
The beard is so much better on him.
The beard does him so many favors.
We find out that there's a Christmas baking contest. A real Christmas baking contest that everybody knows about. That Stacy has definitely talked about all the time. Only the best chefs get in. It's in Belgravia, a land I didn't make up.
Two things. One, the way that they orient this thing in the first movie is like very clearly supposed to be the Great British Baking Show. Like in terms of like the cultural clout of it. And secondly, Belgravia is the name of a neighborhood in like the Westminster Kensington area of London where like all the rich people and embassies are. So.
Well, this one's a country now.
That's why everyone's British, I guess, in this country.
We're about to spend most of this movie in one of those like rom-com fictional tiny European nations where the monarchy is very involved in the day-to-day administration of the country.
Yes, for no appreciable reason.
Absolutely none. I mean, you think that they could just have a whole bunch of, like, I don't know, duchies or something, but then you can't be a princess.
It's vitally important there be a princess in this movie.
It's vitally important that there's a chance you become a princess, okay?
It's true. You do have to switch. How else are you going to switch? Kevin basically, because Stacy was so bummed out about breaking up with some guy named Paul, who is a werewolf.
Werewolf?
He sent in an application for her, and she got in for the 56th International Baking Competition. It's not even, like, an important number. It's 56. And she's like, but we can't just close up right before Christmas. That would tank our entire business. And Olivia's like, it turns out we can. Let's go.
Stacey makes a very good argument as to why it's a bad idea to close over Christmas that is just never addressed.
No, she's a baker. Thanksgiving and Christmas have to be some of her biggest holidays.
And she's basically making payroll for the rest of the year over the course of these 2 months.
Yeah, because, like, nobody's buying cookies in January. January is where happiness goes to die. And Olivia also has her priorities straight because she's like, they have a handsome prince there. Look at this picture on the invitation. Look at this handsome man. Please pretend he's handsome.
Please pretend he's handsome and not a human dial tone.
He's just so like 9-7 okay face. You look at this man, and every time you hear in your head one of those canned disappointment sounds, like wah, 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 wah. And then we get to, like, the crux of the quote-unquote, like, character problem here, which is that Stacy needs to be more spontaneous.
Does she? Does she really?
Because she wants to adhere to schedules or something.
This is not a character trait that survives the next 2 movies, by the way.
No, God, no, not at all. We'll hear the word spontaneous sometimes, but that's about it.
She fully ejects her personality, I think, in the subsequent 2 movies.
Stacy initially refuses the call to action and then leaves for not really an appreciable reason, but going walking in Chicago with a hat that says Chicago on it. Just so you know where you're at.
Just in case she forgets where she is or the people around her forget where they are.
In case you don't know.
Yeah, she can look in a mirror and be like, oh, Chicago, not Vancouver.
Anyway, she runs into Paul, the dreaded Paul, who has a new girlfriend who is also very generic looking. There's a lot of really generic looking people in this movie. Their faces just slide off my brain. They're too smooth.
And Paul's like, oh yeah, Stacy and I dated for a while, I guess. Which, by the way, was 3 years. So Stacy's like, okay, fuck you. I'm going to a baking contest in Belgravia.
And he's like, where's Belgravia? And she's like, don't worry about it.
While she's out, she passes a unmarked red bucket that's definitely not the Salvation Army.
Don't donate to the Salvation Army, folks.
Yeah, maybe instead donate to this weird old guy who just turns to her and he's like, Christmas sure is a magical time of the year, wouldn't you say?
I don't know who this is supposed to be. He's clearly not Santa.
Christmas wishes have been known to come true. And like, as Stacy leaves, the camera like lingers on this man who watches her go. He's very ominous.
Yeah, and like, he doesn't look a thing like Santa.
This is very important.
But he's given the Santa treatment.
Yeah.
This movie treats him like he's very obviously supposed to be Santa, but he's not. He doesn't look a thing like Santa.
You have to understand, he doesn't have the twinkling eyes, he doesn't have a beard, he's fairly skinny. This is not your, like, stock standard, not really Santa, but actually really Santa. You have to remember this. This is important. I'm gonna have a breakdown about this later. With some ADR over a shot of a plane, we hear Vanessa Hudgens say, I guess we're going to Belgravia.
Because I guess the shot of the plane wasn't enough and the test audiences got confused.
They were like, where are they going?
Speaking of which, the test audiences for this movie must have been the most checked out people in the entire fucking world, the extent to which this movie feels the need to explain things.
They arrive in Belgravia, they're shuffled off to a charming little cottage that Olivia's like, it's just like Clara's house from the Nutcracker because I like ballet. It is nothing like Clara's house from the Nutcracker.
You look at this house and it is like a very firmly North American colonial style house. You're looking at this, I mean, none of this town looks like Europe, actually. Like, just to look at it, you're like, no, it's not. That's Vancouver. That's clearly Vancouver.
There's a big Christmas fair in town. They have a weirdly American Santa Claus and elves instead of, like, Father Christmas or Saint Nicholas and various formerly enslaved best friends.
All the Christmas decorations, too, are very Americanized, too. There's a cartoony element to them that you don't see in Europe.
Yeah, again, like, you have to understand, we here in the United States, like, we do Christmas so specifically compared to Europe. We don't even have St. Nicholas Day.
Like, don't get me wrong, like, here in England anyway, like, Christmas is a big deal, but it's a big deal in a different way.
Yeah. So Stacy, there's a thing where it's like, oh, she loves itemized lists and schedules. We're going to hear the word schedules pronounced schedules a lot today.
Oh, we are. Schedules.
Schedule.
I'm pretty sure it's Vanessa Hudgens' anchor word for that accent.
It probably is.
You know what? I think so. They're like, okay, let's go shopping at the Christmas fair. Let's buy some stockings sold by the mysterious old man from Chicago.
When first I appear, I seem mysterious. But when explained, I'm nothing serious.
Only he's got a British accent now.
And Stacy's like, weren't you in Chicago? And he's like, why, how could I have possibly been in Chicago? By the way, the prince is getting married to the Duchess of Montanaro on New Year's Day. If only someone in the baking competition could meet them. what the fuck are you doing here, old man?
What is this old man here for?
He also mentions that there's like a children's ballet conservatory, and Olivia, who is in a ballet class, has now never wanted anything else in her entire life. And it's like, on the one hand, kid, you're gonna ruin your feet. You're gonna completely ruin your feet. But on the other hand, there should be more black prima donnas, so...
You know.
And the mysterious old man is like, they have a summer program. And then he turns to Stacy and he's like, you know, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Which is a supposed John Lennon quote that keeps coming up in this movie.
Anyway, Stacy almost gets hit by the prince's car. That's their meet cute. So we head to the television studio. They do equipment checks. We meet some mean girl baker who's not really a problem in this movie. She's here to just do an inciting incident.
Don't worry about her. She is barely going to show up.
I am obsessed with this mean girl baker. She is in a completely different movie from everybody else. By the end of this movie, she is the only person in the entire movie who's still invested in the baking competition.
It's like she's so ancillary. It's like she existed 3 drafts ago as a major antagonist, and now she's basically just here for, like, Stacy to say, like, hey, you slept with the faculty at culinary school, huh? You sauced Professor Kendall's berries. Damn, girl. But it's like, she's here in this movie, and she's not going to do anything noteworthy aside from spill some coffee on Stacy's apron. But it's like, why is she here?
She's unnecessary.
The baking plot is nothing.
As you said, she was here a few plot rewrites ago, and they just never saw fit to get rid of her.
I guess so. They just really liked Brianna Michaels too much. She's not here to make friends. She won last year or something. And apparently they are both from Chicago at this international baking competition. Stacy gets coffee on her apron, so she goes to go find a new apron. And then, well...
she runs into Duchess Margaret
Delacour.
Of Montanaro.
Of Montanaro.
Another real place.
Another definitely real place.
That's right. And there's a mirror in this room, so they can look at each other and be like, wow, we are so goddamn like the same person.
We gotta have that effects shot where we have both of them next to each other.
Yeah, you remember the 90s Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan? We're gonna be doing that a lot today.
It's just that, a bunch.
There's also just, it's very funny how so many times in the movie they're going to be like, you guys need to sit and have a chat, but please sit at least 5 feet apart. So we need to talk about Vanessa Hudgens' accent as Margaret Delacour.
Oh boy.
So this is kind of a transatlantic, like, really, I'm sure, I'm charmed. The subtitles all say it's a British accent, but is it?
I'm not sure the transatlantic element is on purpose or just because Vanessa Hudgens is not particularly good at doing an RP accent.
Yeah, it's definitely meant to be something. Whatever it is, she sticks to it and then pitches it down for the third Vanessa Hudgens.
She's slightly better when she does it as the third Vanessa Hudgens just because she puts like so much sass into it that like
that's true.
You kind of forget that it's not a particularly good RP accent.
She's also dressed in this, like, it's definitely meant to look like a Chanel suit. The more that you look at her little outfit in this movie, the more confused you're going to be by what it's meant to be doing, like where the buttons and the eyelets are supposed to be. Don't worry about it.
I think it's supposed to be giving, like, young Queen Elizabeth II vibes.
Or something? As soon as Margaret sees Stacy as her look-alike, she's like, hey, want to give me an opinion on my wedding cake? Join me at the palace today. No schemes are happening. Let's meet in an hour. Tell no one.
Tell no one you're going. No one can see you come in.
Stacy is like, okay, sure, forgets to get a new apron. Later does a little, like, complicated best friend handshake with Olivia, because that's going to be important later. And Olivia's like, I'm a precocious matchmaker. Dad, you should hook up with Stacy. Kevin's like, no, we've been friends since high school. It never really worked out. We're just not really, like, compatible. She's a little high maintenance. And I need you to think about the fact that Kevin has known this woman since high school. And works with her.
Knows her quite possibly the best out of anyone in the world.
Anyone in the world. Please think about that. So they switch places. You knew this was coming.
Yeah, they do the princess and the pauper thing.
They're like, are we related somehow? And her valet? A couple generations ago, someone in our family fled the country after a dalliance with a vulgar American divorcee. And frankly, God forbid John and I ever get divorced, but if we did, I hope I could be known as a vulgar American divorcee.
Wouldn't that be the dream?
I think you'd have to move to the UK to make that happen, but it's plausible.
Listen, I can get an Airbnb and just, establish a reputation. And Margaret's like, let's do some schemes. We'll switch places for 2 days so I can get to know Genovia or Genosha or whatever country this is.
Not the one that Magneto runs. Don't worry about it.
Not the one that Magneto runs. Krakoa.
I think he also ran Genosha for a bit.
He also ran an asteroid, but who's counting?
Stop putting this man in charge of things.
Don't put him in charge of schools, asteroids, or small countries.
Nothing good comes of it.
It always ends poorly.
He always resorts to murder at the slightest provocation. It is actually amazing how quickly his train of thought goes directly to murder. He's just a dumb bitch who makes bad decisions. Anyway, we're getting off track.
Stacy now has to spend time with Edward, who is Margaret's fiancé. He's the prince of Genovia. She's like, he's very formal. There's no sparks. Can I bribe you with anything? Stacy's like, well, a mysterious old man said some ominous shit to me about my character arc, so okay. But also, can you give me a sponsorship for the Royal Ballet Conservatory for Olivia's in the summer program? Now that we've established that, we're not really going to be doing anything with it for the rest of the movie, so don't worry about it.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just forget it. We're focusing on the romance, okay?
Haircut training montage, swap your phones, do a switcheroo, meet your respective boys.
Yeah, just immediate responses of oh no in both cases. I will point out that the guy playing the prince is also just doing he's actually British, but he's doing a very generic RP accent, which is funny because if you listen to the actual British royals talk, they sound like a fucking diesel engine. Like he needs to be about 300% plummier to be believable as a royal, I think.
Turns out that Margaret has always been spontaneous, and Stacy loves schedules, so she's like, follow the schedule, and she was like, absolutely I will. I'm going to throw it out now. Edward, it turns out, also likes schedules and lists and the Little Prince, so obviously they're going to get married.
Obviously.
Honestly, Edward's entire personality in this movie is kind of posh, but not like the level of posh that would be realistic, where like most of the aristocrats in Europe, or they're like poorly socialized zoo animals. They're absolute freaks. He's not that. He's just like a little haha rich guy oblivious level. He likes lists and he is quote unquote hot.
He's kind of stupid.
That's his whole deal.
He doesn't know what things are. He doesn't know culture.
He doesn't know what Twister is.
He doesn't know what Twister is. And like in subsequent ones, because he has so little screen time, he's going to be sort of lightly Flanderized, steamrolled into just being like, does not understand American pop culture references.
Yes.
And anything will count as pop culture.
Or American for that matter.
Yeah.
It's true.
We get a slight complication in that, like, Edward was going to go off to, like, talk to somebody from Spain or something, but he's decided not to because he's going to get married too soon, and he feels like he should probably spend some time with his fiancée.
Because they've met twice, apparently.
Over breakfast with the king and queen, there is a brief bit here where they're like, oh, so Margaret, we need some opinion on the wedding. Which one of your family is allergic to peanuts? And she makes up a lot of nonsense about someone named Percival, who apparently died last year. And she's like, yes, from a peanut allergy.
This becomes canon later.
This actually comes back.
It turns out this is not her bullshitting. This is her remembering something she was told.
But, like, Stacy's whole bit as Margaret is to make awkward little jokes and talk too much while, like, making shit up and trying to cover her ass while she's talking. So, like...
just constantly bullshitting stuff about Montanaro, half of which later turns out to be true.
Yeah. So, like, it's hard to tell if she's actually great at this or terrible at it.
It's like how Justice Smith's character in that game, The Quarry, is either doing a perfect portrayal of a disaffected American teen or completely phoning in his performance, and it's impossible to tell which one it is.
We have two different romance plots here. One of them is Stacy is doing all of, like, the fancy Christmas date things from the movies. She's gonna go horseback riding and be bad at it. She's gonna get a carriage ride. She's gonna get a fancy party and wear a nice dress. Margaret is going to go to a Christmas fair and learn about small town folksy Christmas or whatever.
Yeah, and then Stacy's whole thing that convinces everyone by the end of the movie that she'd actually be a good princess is the fact that she keeps doing the Princess Diana shit.
Yeah.
She keeps doing the people's princess stuff.
Yeah, she keeps being like, so you have charities. What do you know about them? I'm like, oh, we run a ball to give to charities. And she's like, so who runs them? What are their books like? How many kids?
I don't know other people.
Have you considered?
We let the other people handle that.
And then she's like, no, of course, I'm sorry. But Edward is, of course, charmed. So they're like, oh, let's go to see children who are poor.
Let's poke them with sticks like they're zoo animals or people in the insane asylums of Victorian England. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. Victorian, like, rich people would go and do, like, spectator tours of asylums in Victorian England.
The Victorians were freaks, weren't they?
They were terrible. They were absolute freaks.
They were wild.
Like eating mummies, touring orphans. Absolute freaks.
Absolute freaks.
So, by the way, Olivia susses it out immediately.
Olivia rumbles like Margaret immediately.
Oh, Olivia knows instantly.
Like, Margaret is already just, like, bad about, like, oh, I burnt breakfast, and yes, I definitely know our handshake and things that happened yesterday. And Olivia's suspicious, and then later, like, you have, like, Stacy phone Margaret, and she's like, so there's a problem, and then hands the phone over to Olivia, who's like, hey.
Yeah, we don't even see the confrontation scene. We just leave that completely off screen because we know how it goes.
Yeah. Olivia's actually pretty great. I appreciate that Olivia not only wants her dad to hook up with, like, her godmother, because Stacy is Olivia's godmother, because that makes sense to her, but also as soon as the second Stacy shows up, who is a noblewoman, she's like,
This'll do.
I got this.
This'll do.
I know what I want for me, and therefore my dad should have this, so I can then also be the stepdaughter of a duchess.
And then later, for some reason, a princess of Montenaro, which I'm pretty sure that's not how that works, but don't worry about it.
Stacy has trouble riding horses.
She has so much trouble riding horses.
She has so much trouble riding horses.
She is so bad at riding horses that she manages to completely vault over the back of a horse, which in terms of, like, being bad at riding horses is a new one for me.
That's an impressive way to not get on a horse.
Yeah, like, normally the way people fuck it up is they put the wrong foot in the stirrup and now they're backwards on the horse. But no, she was just on the ground.
And then she's on the other side of the horse.
Also on the ground.
These are great horses, by the way. They're very patient.
I want it noted that in my notes I just put, let the horse girls talk about horses.
So you've just set aside the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, to give you guys, too, both of your space.
I appreciate that they are actually in, like, fancy English riding dress for this.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, with the shoes, with the little hats.
Yep, all the correct tack and gear and everything.
Yep, no saddle horns for once.
They also look like European horses, so that's good.
Yeah, they're good horses. I like them. I wish they were in more of the movie. What if we could just pivot to movie being about horses?
I feel like there's got to be at least one of these Christmas movies that takes place on a horse ranch in Mustang Country, right?
Oh, there's gotta be so many that are horse ranch movies.
There's got to be one that centers around, like, taming the perfect, like, wild feral Mustang for Christmas or whatever, right?
Yeah, to, like, pull Santa's sleigh or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a free spirit, but it respects you now because you have the Christmas spirit or whatever.
Yeah, and it used to belong to this hot boy from your hometown. Or maybe he's the one making the sleigh.
We should be careful here because a friend of mine went to film school in New York and everybody in his program, all the women got approached by Hallmark, and they were basically told, hey, pitch us some Hallmark Christmas movies. Here's all the Christian values you have to embody. Here's the beat sheet. And a lot of those pitches got sent off and nobody got a call back, but a lot of those pitches got made anyway.
Ouch.
So we don't want to be making any money for Hallmark here on this podcast.
By the way, speaking of Hallmark and Hallmark things, while they are hanging out in the Christmas market between Margaret and Kevin and Olivia, the mysterious old man is hanging out again. He just accosts Kevin when Kevin is left alone for a minute.
When first I appear, I seem delirious. When explained, I'm nothing serious.
Don't be alone around this man. He will say mysterious, ominous shit at you.
Oh, you're so in love. That's nice. What a good match. You should hook up. You're such a good couple in love. And he's like, that's my best friend and you're making it weird.
It's almost ominous the degree to which other characters in these movies will say to a character, you should hook up with this other person because you're, quote, a good match.
Oh, yeah. It's the same kind of energy with which people will, like, look at two babies sitting in close proximity and be like, what a heartbreaker. They're gonna get married. Like, it's the exact same energy.
It is exactly that energy. It's weird. It's ominous and it's unsettling. I don't like it.
Olivia, by the way, also asks North American Santa for a new mom for Christmas. And I appreciate that because Olivia knows what's up and she just wants that title.
Yeah, she wants to be a fucking princess/duchess so bad.
We'll cut back to the castle where Edward is like, oh my god, do you speak your mind on affairs of state? I love it when women speak their mind on affairs of state. Oh my god, I respect your opinions so much.
You can see the fantasy that they're trying to execute on here, but again, this man is just so much nothing.
He's so nothing.
That there's really nothing to, like, attach to here. If it were Werewolf Channing Tatum doing it, then we would be getting somewhere.
Oh, we would.
God, remember May I Kill Him? That was good.
I think about May I Kill Him on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I think about that a lot.
There's a precocious snowball fight where they just, like, fall down in the fakest snow ever, and everyone's laughing and having fun, and I feel really bad about Kevin. Who is being gaslit in a major way in this movie. I believe Margaret is the gaslight of this trinity.
Absolutely.
There is an argument to be made for Fiona being the gaslight, but I will accept your argument for why it should be Margaret who is gaslight.
I just feel so bad about Kevin. Kevin's best friend has suddenly changed in a major way and is, like, coming on to him. His best friend since high school. His business partner. And also his daughter is like, you guys should get married. You should get married. You guys should get married.
Get married, please.
You should specifically get married and then not have any children. This is important.
This is important. Don't worry about it, Dad.
I should get legally adopted.
Drink this tea I made you. It definitely doesn't have estrogen in it.
I think Stacy should be my new mom and also legally adopt me. Real Stacy, pretending to be Margaret, does go to a ball, gets a pretty crimson dress for her ball gown. Edward is dressed up where he's wearing, like, a bow tie and then also one of those, like, Count Dracula medals, but, like, it's cinched almost slightly too tight around his neck. And also they stand under the mistletoe.
Gotta do the thing.
Later at this party, Stacy goes out to the royal gazebo, and as Edward, like, looks for her, he is accosted by the mysterious old man.
When first I appear, I seem deleterious. Shut up!
Who works at the palace, I guess.
I work at the palace. I'm just no one. You make such a fine couple, sir. She's out there on the gazebo. And again, I cannot say it enough. Every time this man is, like, the last one left in a shot, it lingers on him as he just, like, leers at the characters.
Again, it lingers on him like we're supposed to know what the fuck he's doing here and who he is. This is not Santa.
We're not in on this joke, whatever it is. They have a little romantic dance in snowy weather in an outdoor gazebo without any coat. She's got a bare-shouldered dress. This thing does not have sleeves.
They are so cold.
They must be freezing.
Oh god, yeah. And speaking as someone who did, like, November wedding in fucking Jasper up in the Rocky Mountains.
Oh boy.
All of the girls who were in, like, the bridesmaids' dresses were absolutely freezing.
Yeah.
Half of those wedding pictures are just me going, take the fucking picture. Take the fucking picture. I want to go back inside. Take the fucking picture.
We do get a very important thing in this movie, though, which is that while the two Vanessas are like swapping stories about respective quote-unquote hot boys, Kevin walks in PJs, shirtless, and he's shockingly fit.
He's so fit.
Like, weirdly ripped.
Kevin has extremely well-defined arms and pecs. Where was this?
When did this happen?
When did this happen? I guess Baker arms, but like that, no, this is a man who works out. And where was this, and where will this continue to be in the rest of the movies? I'm sitting there every single time being like, when will Kevin take his shirt off again?
I don't know, considering he works at a bakery, if he had some dad bod going on, I can see, like, it would be a different kind of thirst. But I think there would be equal thirst for him in certain circles.
Yeah. Just weirdly fit. Especially because, like, and it's such a shock because he's already, like, handsome, but the movie is really focused on how hot the prince is, and he's nothing. He's nothing.
He's fine looking, I guess.
Stacy continues to do her Princess Diana shtick. They go visit the orphans, who are also all very Irish, so that's weird.
Yeah, there's kind of an extra layer here where if someone is, like, considered a lower class in Belgravia and later Montanaro, they're Irish, which...
Yeah,
we're gonna have to crack that one open at some point and have a look.
So these are like the common folk?
All you have to do is open up a modest proposal and you'll see how those from Belgravia feel.
Yeah, is Belgravia a colonial state? Is there something we need to be concerned about here?
Because there sure seems to be, at the very least, a dialectical divide between the working classes, which would imply some other kinds of divides.
Why is the royal family almost entirely British? Do they perhaps have their roots in, say, another nation that, conquered this one?
On the other hand, now we are getting into the fact that, like, Montanaro, their duchess, is Filipino.
Yes.
So that implies a whole other separate set of colonialisms.
But, like, again, we go to Montanaro later, and everyone in Montanaro is also white and British.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
What's going on in Belgravia and Montanaro? What's happening?
And unfortunately, we do have a real-world example of what happens when a woman of color marries into a European royal family, and the outcome's not good.
Not great.
Not great.
Not great.
Hey, remember that thing how Princess Margaret's parents both died when she was quite young?
Yeah.
Remember how we've been making comparisons to Princess Diana?
We can't think about this one too hard. The movie's not prepared for that. It does not have the structural integrity for this.
The movie doesn't have the structural integrity for us to be doing this, and also, we're still on the first one, and we gotta keep going.
We gotta get
got 3 of
going.
these to cover.
Okay. Stacy and Edward shop for the orphans at, like, the worst layout toy store I've ever seen.
Agreed.
That's just how shops in Europe look. Let's be clear.
Mackenzie, look at this terrible store.
Agreed. It's terrible.
There's so much unused space. Nothing's faced. They just have baskets full of random shit. They have a whole floor space dedicated to a Twister demo.
It's so bad. Everybody knows fucking Twister. You don't have to demo Twister.
Why are you demoing Twister?
Demo something that's, one, expensive, that the kids will, like, play and then be like, Mommy, we need it for Christmas!
Important question. Why are the only brand names in this movie Twister and Netflix?
It's so weird. Both of the Vanessas and their respective pairings show up in the toy store and they have to do a wacky little, like, oh no, turn around, don't look thing. And then the mysterious old man shows up to give them an excuse and like, come help me push my car. Let's leave immediately. Who are you?
Jesus Christ.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Who is this?
What's your game, old man?
This is like Uatu the Watcher in disguise. What the fuck is going on?
Edward and Stacy bond over cooking. Edward mentions missing the smell of roast turkey for Christmas. A New World bird, are you sure?
I mean, you do occasionally get turkey dinners here in the UK, but like, the traditional thing is a goose.
It's a goose.
It's a goose.
It's a goose. The goose. The goose. Got a little, and what, Tiny Tim, he loves the goose.
He loves the goose.
He loves the goose.
He's so excited about the goose.
They also smooch underneath mistletoe with the orphans and then play Twister, and everybody's like, I love Twister. It's my favorite game. Hooray for Twister.
I feel like the fact that, like, no tabloid photographer got a picture of the crown prince of the country playing Twister with his fiancée that he's not married to yet. Like, that should have been on the newspaper by the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Twister is not known for being a not horny game. There are connotations with Twister, especially for the sexually repressed.
Yeah, and, like, let's be clear. Nobody in these movies fucks.
No.
No one fucks.
No. No.
No one fucks.
They say some, like, surprisingly, like, dirty allusions once per movie.
That's about as far as you can get.
Yeah, like in the second one, we've got Edward saying, oh, there's other things I could do to help distract you tonight, and then starts talking about, like, listening to music or whatever. It's like, you got so close, my guy.
Everyone is a virgin. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
They don't even know what they've got down there.
No.
They don't look.
They're smooth. It's just about time to unswitcheroo. Margaret, like, says goodbye to Olivia, and Olivia's like, you're meant to be here, though, where I can get into a ballet school and be one of the nobles.
And insinuate myself into the absolute monarchy of this country. I will be a dictator in 20 years, so God help me. Olivia's gonna rule Montanaro with an iron fist someday.
God, she is.
And good for her, frankly.
Good for her.
Yeah, honestly, good for her. We support her.
Absolutely. Margaret and Kevin are like, yeah, let's chill out and, like, watch a Christmas movie. Like, Netflix's A Christmas Prince. Your favorite, Stacy.
They even show, like, very clearly, like, the demo version of, like, the Netflix menu on the fucking TV.
Yep. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird.
Deeply weird. And, like... You know how historically in movies and TV, they would make up, like, fake versions of pop culture properties for various, like, trademark reasons? It also turns out if you put, like, the real trademark properties in your whatever, it's kind of weird and tacky and bad, and nobody likes it.
Especially because this is a Netflix movie by Netflix.
Yes.
I believe at some point, Kevin also is like, hey, I feel like you've changed the last couple of days, and it's been, like, really nice, and I got you a present. It's a locket with a picture of the three of us going to see Santa. It's a really garish locket, but can I kiss you? Is there something here? I've been completely reevaluating my friendship with you that I've had for decades, and I think maybe we should try dating, and I think you feel it too, and they kiss, and then she's like, no, let's pretend this didn't happen, and he's like, oh. Okay.
I'm coming around on Margaret being the gaslight in this equation.
Yeah. It's like, Kevin has been just wrecked here.
Kevin doesn't know what the fuck is happening. He's questioning his grip on reality.
This is someone he has known for a very long time. This is his business partner. He is taking an enormous risk here by saying, I feel like you've really changed. Is there something here I'd like there to be over the last 2 days?
He's had to reorient, like, his entire conception of his life.
Yeah, this is like he's a single father. And, like, he's not a widow. He's been through a divorce before. He kept his daughter. This man's been through the ringer, and he is now being gaslit by two Vanessas Hudgens. Why not tell Kevin? What is there to gain from not telling Kevin?
And it's not like Kevin would tell anybody or anything. He's your fucking best friend.
Who's he going to tell?
Who would believe him if he told?
Tell Kevin.
Just tell Kevin. I get not telling the prince or whatever, but, like, why not tell Kevin? He's not in a position of power. Oh, it's so messed up. Poor Kevin.
Oh, poor Kevin.
Ugh.
These movies are the worst thing that's ever happened to Kevin.
They re-switch. They're back to their regular things. They're both sad because they both fell for the other man. They get found out. There's been a subplot the whole time where, like, the king has been like, something's weird about Margaret. Frank, I think your name is. Go try to find what's going on. And Frank, there's a recurring bit. It doesn't matter. He gets photos. They find out. Whatever. The queen finds some photos of, like, the two Vanessas Hudgens composited next to each other. And she's like, this is weird. This is pretty unsettling. What the hell's going on? But then the queen is accosted by the mysterious old man. He's now a groundskeeper.
Who the fuck is this?
And he's like, I just see a princess, don't you? Who are you?
And then this movie's like, hey, you remember how this was about a baking competition?
There was a baking competition, it turns out.
Yeah, remember that rival character? We have a whole ass scene dedicated to her going in and like snipping the power cord on the KitchenAid mixer. And then acting like this is a masterful act of sabotage. And then the movie treats it like a masterful act of sabotage because it doesn't occur to anybody that like they could just ask for a new mixer.
Yeah, it's a KitchenAid stand mixer. You're telling me they're not going to have a couple spares in the back?
Are you telling me that this baking competition has no spare mixers?
Or any hand mixers?
I am also able to guarantee that if you held up a obviously snipped power cord, they would be like, oh yeah, we're gonna pause and get you a new one, 1 second.
This is in a TV studio, but it doesn't appear to be televised, and if it is, I don't know to what audience. They have 5 hours to make a cake, by the way, and apparently they only use the stand mixer for pureeing berries. Somehow.
For some reason, pureeing the berries is the first time they realize that the stand mixer is fucked.
While they are baking a cake.
Yeah, you were like stirring that batter by hand?
There's a bit where the queen is like, gosh, Edward and Margaret, I was going to go to the baking competition, but you go instead. Stacey and Kevin make the ugliest cake. It's a fondant nightmare.
It's the worst. It looks like there should be a very small stripper bud busting out of it, is what it looks like.
There should be.
I love it because they're like, you have 5 hours to make a cake, and you think they would do at least a light, like, baking competition montage. But they don't. They basically just get to, like, we have to puree the berries on our own, and then 5 hours later, the baking competition is done. Margaret comes clean to Edward and is like, by the way, we did a switcheroo. I'm not really in love with you, but I do have a completely unrelated to me twin who is.
Also, I need to either continue or stop gaslighting this man. I haven't figured out which. We'll find out on the way.
Brianna, the evil baker bitch, got second place. Stacey somehow got first place, even though, gosh, these berries were not pureed as smoothly as I would have liked.
The berries.
Here's the berries. They get their medals. The medals are handed out by the royal family, apparently. They do the whole thing with the confrontation in front of an audience.
And then halfway through, they're like, we should continue this conversation backstage. Also, Olivia is sitting next to this lady in the stands who she keeps looking over like she knows her. This woman has not been in the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know who this is.
I don't know who this is. It's not like this is like the assistant for Margaret or anything. This is just some woman who is also here. Kevin is pretty hurt. Kevin probably has to completely reevaluate his whole entire life right now.
Kevin's having a rough time with this.
Because it turns out he's in love with his best friend's double that he thought was his best friend, but now with a completely separate woman who is pretending to be his best friend, who has also fallen for him. That's messed up.
Yeah, like, I would not be having a good time with this.
No. Kevin actually gets over it pretty quickly. Edward, by the way, who has already gone through this explanation, is like, okay, that seems fine. Sure, whatever.
Edward does not give a shit, honestly.
No.
He's already only met this woman twice. So the fact that it was a different woman the third time is not a big deal to him.
Not a problem.
Kevin eventually is like, okay, sure. Goes in for a kiss with Margaret. Olivia grins all like, Keikakudori. Olivia's doing great.
The Dune theme song starts playing in the background as Olivia looks on. Olivia's going to be God Emperor of Montanaro.
Stacey has a sudden crisis of like, no, I can't do this. I'm just a simple baker from Chicago. I can't do this, this has not been here the rest of the movie. So we just have to have a quick thing right now. And then Edward is like, wait, but I love you because you're the princess of the people or something. Marry me next Christmas if you're still in love with me.
You would think that this would lead to like a plot point. It doesn't. We smash cut to next Christmas.
Oh yeah, they're fine. They get married. Margaret catches the bouquet and the mysterious old man walks away from the wedding.
Who is this?
Who is this? We never find out who he is. He's credited as kindly man. Who is this? He doesn't, like, walk out and, like, get on Santa's sleigh and be like, mission accomplished, sir.
It's like a whole Samuel L. Jackson at the end of Iron Man moment, where he walks into a darkened room and a chair turns around and it's Santa.
Is this some kind of, like, guardian spirit of Montanaro or something? He followed her to Chicago. He was in Chicago.
Maybe there's a second movie going on, and all of these men are actually just identical triplets.
Oh my god, they're all switching?
Yes, they're all switching.
There's a second layer, an extra switch.
So you know that Doctor Who episode where, like, there's all the different doors on the spaceship into various points in Madame de Pompadour's life?
Right.
What if that guy is on that spaceship and it's all, like, different stages of specifically Olivia's life?
Oh dear, Annette. You've had some cowboys in here.
Oh, Olivia's life? I was going to say Vanessa Hudgens, but you know what? I like it. I like that this is actually about Olivia. This is making sure that Olivia gets put on the Montanaran throne.
Yeah, this is ensuring that Olivia becomes God Empress of Montanaro.
That's all the universe really wants.
Okay, so that was the first Princess Switch movie. We have to get into the second one. Somehow, more happens, but also less.
It's a real nothing movie.
It's like an interlude before they decide, well, let's just go completely off the rails.
Honestly, I watched it 2/3 of the way through, and I was like, okay, I get the gist. I know where this is going. I don't need to keep watching this. I got to half hour before the end, and I was like, I don't actually formally need to know what happens. I know what happens.
Okay, so Princess Switch 2, switched again. This one comes out in 2020, folks.
Oof.
It's been 2 years. Some shit's happened this year.
What month of 2020 is December?
It had to have been a December release. At the very least, the Hallmark engine usually, like, films everything, like, about a year in advance. But this is also Christmas 2020, but it is a Hallmark Christmas 2020 when nothing else happens. It's a normal year.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's just a regular year. So, we open with a little animated recap of the first movie, while Stacy narrates to say what happened since it's been 2 years. And also then lays out some ridiculous shit for us.
Yeah, it starts off with like, hey, you know the Prince and the Pauper?
Hey, have you heard of that? Have you heard about that? We did that. I got a haircut.
And then some other stuff happens.
And since all of that happened, the King of Montanaro died, and Margaret is now in line for the throne.
Apparently because the Crown Prince was like, nah, and left.
And then someone else did. Like, 2 different lines of succession were like, eh. And also, that meant that Margaret and Kevin broke up. And also, we find out that Stacy has like a royal bakery or something. She still wants to be a girl boss and run a business in Belgravia as its monarch.
Do you think there's like maybe some very quiet laws on the books that say that you have to go to Stacy's bakery?
All events must be catered by the princess's bakery.
There's some astonishing nepotism happening here. Like, we're talking some Prince Andrew shit.
So we've moved into Belgravia's 59th baking competition. So I guess it's been 2 years since the ending of the first movie, which was a year after the events of the first movie. I don't know. Stacy's here to announce a winner in a completely different location. We're never going to see that village again.
Don't worry about it.
Or that TV studio.
Ever. Apparently, one of the background characters from 2 years ago won.
The German guy that got 3rd place in the last movie.
Yeah.
But now he's winning.
We go to the royal castle. I believe we find out that Belgravia has a parliament. Because they mention a parliament meeting.
They mention a prime minister, I think.
Yeah.
And like, okay, is this a constitutional monarchy? How does this country work?
Stacy runs all the royal charities and a baking shop. So she and Edward haven't spent much time together. They're about to go spend Christmas in Montanaro because Margaret is going to be crowned on Christmas Day.
Weird time to do it.
Weird time to do it. Gee, it seems like you're kind of stealing the thunder from Jesus Christ there. This also seems to be a couple of deeply Catholic countries, I think.
It seems Catholic.
Maybe they're Anglican?
Margaret has harbored like a deep-seated hatred for Queen Elizabeth II basically her entire life and has figured out the one way to upstage her Christmas address.
Stacy is like, oh no, poor Margaret. There's all these gossip rags about how, like, Margaret never expected to be queen, which is like, you say that, but she was engaged to a prince a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
She would have been queen anyway, right?
That would have happened. He's the firstborn, right?
You would think? Right?
Yeah, he is the crown prince. He would eventually be monarch.
Yeah. Edward is like, hey, you're stressed. I know what we can do. Wink, wink. And Stacy's like,
They're not talking about fucking.
Stacy's like, how about instead of entertaining that, I exposit more about how Margaret broke up with Kevin and didn't move to Chicago and they were almost engaged. And she's like, men never know what they want. And Edward's like, I know what I want. Stacy says, I'm going to Chicago. You're not coming.
He's a purse dog for the next 2 movies. That's his entire thing in these next 2 movies.
He is a hapless dunce who maybe wants to canoodle with his wife.
You know how in the Twilight movies, Edward's whole thing is that he's annoying and causes problems, and then once he marries Bella, he stops being annoying and causing problems, and therefore it just becomes nothing for the rest of the series?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that.
It's that. Except he wasn't really annoying or causing problems in the first one.
Yeah, he was a dial tone then, and he's a quieter dial tone now.
So we cut back to Chicago briefly, where Stacy's baking shop is now in a completely different set because it was a new location, but they kept the name despite the fact that Kevin's run it for the past couple of years.
In sweatpants.
In sweatpants.
Could it be Kevin's baking shop now?
Yeah.
Also, Kevin looks way hotter now. He needed that facial hair.
Kevin got a beard. It's supposed to be a sadness beard, but it's a good beard.
It's a good beard.
It's a real good beard.
Does him a lot of favors.
Also, in this movie, it really shows, like, Kevin has, like, short, like, curly hair. It is starting to get threaded with whites. He's got some pepper in there. It looks great. The beard looks great on him.
It's so good.
Like I said, farmer's market hot.
He's a good-looking man. It's also funny because it's like, oh, this movie comes out in 2020 and we're making fun of somebody just wearing sweatpants to get by, huh?
We're gonna cast judgment on somebody wearing sweatpants to cope, huh?
In the year 2020? Are you sure about that one?
We're gonna cast that level of judgment? Okay.
Okay. Olivia also now works here. She's a little older and she's been recast.
Yeah, this is just a different girl.
This should probably be said, like, Olivia and Kevin are both portrayed by black actors. The two Olivias do not look anything alike, even in skin tones. Like, Olivia is so much lighter in this movie and the next one. There's no squinting. They didn't try to cast someone who looked similar. They just went like, so you also have big hair, yes?
It works.
Can you
So-
do precocious? Good.
Can you be precocious? Excellent. It's also great that, like, Stacy comes in and Olivia and Kevin are both like, oh, I instantly recognize you, Stacy. Of course this is Stacy, Kevin. Kevin, you cannot assume things, Kevin. You should be asking every time.
If you're Stacy, you have to tell me or else it's entrapment.
Kevin, you went through the ringer last movie not knowing which one was Stacy. And anyway, Stacy is here to bully Kevin into going to the coronation of his ex-girlfriend.
He's like, I don't want to go. And Olivia's like, I never sent your RSVP.
So this is entrapment. Olivia saw her chance, missed it, through no fault of her own, now sees that she could now be bumped up to princess, not just daughter of a duchess. And she's ready.
She is so ready.
Yeah, no, she is seizing power by any means necessary. And if that means further gaslighting her father, she's going to do it.
Meanwhile, in Montanaro, Edward and Olivia show up at the Montanaro Palace. There's a bunch of just interchangeable fancy buildings in a lot of the exteriors for this movie. Margaret shows up with her, like, assistant, Mrs. Donatelli, who just, like, she's just in this movie.
She's here. Don't worry about it.
She's here. And they're like, surprise, we also brought your ex-boyfriend and his daughter. It's great, right? We did this for you.
Why aren't you happy?
It turns out that, like, all the furniture in the palace is still covered, and she's like, well, I felt like maybe I shouldn't do a whole lot of unpacking or cancel the festivities because there's, like, concerts and a ball and stuff because, you know, the king did recently die, and I don't really want to, like, step in on that grief.
And then unfortunately, because this is a Christmas movie, everybody's like, no, you have to decorate the entire palace and invite everyone over for a Christmas party now.
We will be holly and jolly, god damn it. Let's decorate the entire castle ourselves and also a whole horde of servants that we just do not acknowledge at all.
Don't pay attention to them.
There are 2 named servants, everyone else is furniture.
They even do the thing where you will have sets where characters are sitting around talking and you will just have staff lining the walls, staring blankly and disassociating. Monarchy!
Monarchy!
Because they don't change their costumes at all, they must get the entire castle, exterior and interior, decorated in like the course of an afternoon.
Yeah, which is intense.
That's intense. That's a lot.
Stacy is girl bossing too close to the sun.
Edward and Stacy are like, let's go play Twister. We love Twister. Yay!
Twister is our favorite game in this house.
We love Twister so much. Buy Twister. Go buy Twister today. It's not as boring as you remember. And Kevin and Margaret, go have a wacky little mishap in the kitchen while making hot chocolate that somehow involves a flower fight. It's deeply embarrassing.
Yeah, it's honestly, at this point, I was just like doing the skip 10 seconds ahead button a couple of times. Because I was like, I can't fucking do this.
This is here basically so we meet another character in this movie whose name is Antonio. He's the chief of staff. He apparently worked for the king, and now he works for Margaret, and he's known Margaret since they were little, and he's another, like, dial tone white guy.
He's a dial tone, don't worry about it.
Yeah, he's also titled, apparently.
That's true, he is. This is a confusing person. He's like, oh, let me advise you and guide you and smooch your hand whenever you need me. They go to a ball. Kevin's dressed up. He looks nice in a tux. They dance. They're like, oh, things used to be so spontaneous for us. Remember that word, spontaneous? We're going to pretend that that was a character thing. Spontaneous.
Spontaneous.
You know, a thing that monarchs of nations can famously be.
Yeah. And they moon at each other, and Stacy's like, gosh, what could come between 2 people who look at each other like that? Enter someone who gets between 2 people who look at each other like that. This movie was so bland and nothing, so now, to revitalize it, they were like,
we need another Vanessa's Hudgen.
What if we just keep introducing Vanessas?
We need more Vanessas.
I should also note that at this point, Vanessa Hudgens also produced this movie and the third one, too.
And she was like, you know what I want out of this one? I want a blonde wig and tits and an ass.
I want me 3 times.
And who could deny her, frankly?
And with a, yo, let's get this party started. In comes Fiona.
This is Fiona Pembroke, the daughter of that guy who turned out actually did die of a peanut allergy, because that is referenced as a thing that really happened.
Yeah, so there's continuity, apparently. She is bleach blonde, long hair. She is chewing as much scenery as much as possible in, like, the Cruella de Vilist that she can. She comes with 2 gay friends.
Who she refers to as minions, which that's a mood.
Fucking mood.
Their names are Reggie and Mindy. You don't really need to remember them. It's basically, this is a gay man and a lesbian.
Yes.
Yep.
They wear a lot of gold. They wear a lot of leopard print. There's a lot of bleached roots that have grown out.
They do some of the worst pickpocketing I've ever seen in a motion picture.
Absolutely terrible.
Awful, awful lifts.
Just the worst. She calls Margaret Maggie Moo a bunch.
Yeah.
Maggie Moo!
And we can tell that she's annoying because she takes selfies of, I guess.
She actually says pics or it didn't happen, which is a dated reference then.
Yeah. She calls Edward Royal Six-Pack, which, no.
Nope.
She will continue to call him this exclusively. I'm not sure she knows that he has a name.
She just, like, growls at Kevin. She just has an animalistic need for Kevin.
She is the best Vanessa.
She's so, like, anytime she is on screen, she is the most entertaining to watch. And the moment she has to start pretending to be Margaret later in this movie, spoiler alert, she's going to pretend to be Margaret. I immediately lose interest because she stops being interesting to watch.
It's true. Hey, Have you done a little switcheroo since last time? Oh, be a shame if you found a reason to do it again in a second movie.
Don't worry about it.
I'm out of money, but I live at the old Pembroke estate. Also, Kevin is yummy. These three crash the party. They eventually go back to the old Pembroke estate, which they're basically squatting in, with karaoke. And they go over the things that they found, which they were terrible at pickpocketing. They got, like, a couple of wallets, mostly spoons, watches, a roll of toilet paper. I can't tell if that's a 2020 joke or not.
Impossible to tell.
Cannot tell. Might just be a pure coincidence. Because you remember, we toilet paper was a valuable commodity for a bit.
Yeah, remember how there were, like, whole runs on toilet paper?
The gays are all trying to pay for a summer in Capri. And the gays are like, why can't you just be queen instead of your stupid cousin? And she's like, why can't I be queen instead of my stupid cousin?
Why can't I?
I love her. She's so weird. Margaret and Kevin are gonna go on a date, and they keep not being able to find time. Margaret's sad about not being taken seriously about tariffs or something. And Antonia's like, oh, you can't go on a drive with Kevin. There's an urgent item requiring your attention. The urgent item is champagne. You're the queen of my heart.
For some reason, this is working on Margaret.
It's weird that it works on Margaret.
Margaret, please get a single solitary standard, please.
Sweetheart, you've got a Kevin right there. He's, like, far and away the best looking man in this movie.
I realize that this is not a high bar to clear, and yet.
And yet, he clears it so easily.
It's a simple choice. He is actually good looking, and everyone else is. Margaret and Stacy dish about this, and Margaret's like, oh, but Tony would be good for the country. And Stacy's like, you should bang my friend.
My friend is a good guy, and he's the hottest one here.
He's the hottest one here. I mean, by a country mile. It's like, he's a third place everywhere else. Antonio confronts Kevin like, I don't think you're being fair to Margaret. You're too attractive. You're holding her back. You should think about what's best for her, like me. And Olivia overhears this and she's like, Stacy, my succession plans.
My ascent to power is at risk, Stacy. We need a scheme.
Stacy, you have to switch places again. My throne cannot be compromised. I love that this movie is secretly about Olivia rising to power.
I like this version of the movie we've created here on this podcast.
Me too. They decide they have to switch places. Again!
For reasons that are, let's be clear, flimsy at best.
Flimsy at best. The last one was at least like, I don't know, Prince and Pauper or whatever. This one is like, okay, Stacy fills in for Margaret, so Margaret can sneak off and spend some quality time with Kevin on a date tomorrow. And Stacy just goes to a concert. Do you really think we can pull it off? Again?
I'm pretty sure we can.
To their credit, they actually tell Kevin about it this time.
They don't tell Edward, though.
Why don't they tell Edward?
Why don't they tell Edward?
Why don't they tell Edward?
Because Edward is like, oh, that's great. We can actually spend some time together. And it'll be nice because I feel like we've been really distant lately. And that makes me sad because I love you. And Stacey's like, no, I have to lie for some reason. Anyway, we cut back to the Pembroke estate where we find out that Fiona does the ruby rod. Bzzz.
That is honestly the thing I enjoy perhaps the most about her. And I enjoy a lot of things about her.
Fiona comes up with a scheme to kidnap Margaret and then switch places with her long enough to get to the coronation on Christmas Day, then transfer a bunch of funds into an account, and then just spend the rest of her life on a beach.
Yeah, I think the plan here is to loot the royal treasury, which I'm not sure she's got the password to that bank account, even as the reigning monarch. I think there's you have people for that.
There's probably at least 1 or 2 safeguards put in place for embezzlement or something. But I don't know. The important thing is, what's going to be easiest for Olivia?
How can we ensure Olivia's ascent to power?
They also mentioned, like, oh yeah, you went to a boarding school in the United States, which they're not going to talk about ever again. I thought it was there just in case she needed to talk in an American accent, but no.
She doesn't do that.
No.
She does sound like marginally more transatlantic than, like, Margaret does. That might just be because there's a whole lot more oomph into this accent, but...
So this is Vanessa Hudgens constantly, like, pursing her lips a little, and then... like pitching down and saying a whole bunch of ridiculous shit in the same accent.
This is Vanessa Hudgens playing a drag queen is what this character is.
Yes, this is a character who is vamping constantly. She's like, okay, great. So tomorrow, let me just go, like, ask Edward what the schedule is tomorrow. And he's like, oh yeah, they're going to the Montanaro Children's Choir at a concert. Also, they met when there was a coffee spill on an apron. That was the meet cute between the two Vanessas. And she's like, a spill? Really?
That's a great idea.
We come to Christmas Eve. Edward's eating breakfast and Olivia comes in and it's like, your wife has a headache and she can't go anywhere. She's going back to sleep and you shouldn't talk to her or even go see her.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. And then we get a 3 Vanessa makeover montage.
Yeah, you remember we had the 2 Vanessa makeover montage? What if we did that again, but more?
Yeah, and in a third location, another Vanessa pretending to be a different Vanessa. So let's be clear here. Stacy is going to pretend to be Margaret. Margaret is going to dress up like Stacy and sneak out with Kevin. Fiona has dressed up like Margaret and is going to try to do a switcheroo.
With Margaret, who is actually Stacy.
There's a lot of Vanessas. And in this movie, they all have the same haircut, especially once Fiona does a makeover. So this is going to be confusing. They kind of lightly color-coded the Vanessas this time. Stacy kind of wears blue sometimes, and Margaret kind of wears red sometimes, but you're just kind of supposed to go on the accents, which the subtitles don't always say which one is speaking in what accent. So good luck.
Good luck.
Let's be clear. This is not a Tatiana Maslany caliber of performance that's going on here. It's not one of those situations where you can tell that she is playing one character pretending to be another character pretending to be another character. Like, this is
No.
that's not a level of subtlety that I think Vanessa Hudgens was prepared to do for this movie.
The best way to tell which Vanessa you're looking at any given time is which Vanessa is holding her hands over her torso. That one's Margaret. The rest of them, good luck.
Unless it's a Vanessa awkwardly holding her hands over her torso in a very stiff way, in which case it's in fact... I forgot all the Vanessa's names now. It's in fact Fiona pretending to be Maggie Moo, awkwardly.
It's a mess, folks.
It's a mess, folks. Don't worry about it.
So Edward runs into Stacy pretending to be Margaret. Hey, my wife is avoiding me and I'm worried about her marriage and I'm going to like actually speak candidly and open up and speak with a lot of vulnerability. And Stacy's like, don't worry about it.
I don't have time for this.
Don't worry about it. This plot is going nowhere. Edward is like, good talk. I'm gonna go see my wife who is sick and check in on her and provide support. And Olivia's like, don't do that. Don't go talk to your wife. Don't go talk to your wife. You're hovering. Take me out instead. Buy me things. Why is this a secret from Edward?
Why didn't they tell Edward? Why didn't they tell Edward?
Why did they tell Edward? He's a dummy. Who's he gonna tell? They're like, the less people know, the better. I just feel like, okay, look, as someone who is married, generally speaking, you talk to your spouse about things. Generally speaking, a secret that is given to you is something that can be shared in confidence with your spouse. This is just understood. What are you doing? Anyway, we go to the Montanaro concert hall where we have an 80-yard line of like, here we go again. Margaret meets Kevin at a different Santa's Magic Village of Christmas Wonderland Fair, Christmas Carnival. They've rented out the whole village. It's a different carnival from the first movie. Edward and Olivia go shopping. Edward wants to call his wife to check in on her, and Olivia's like, God, it's so gay you care about your sick wife. What are you, gay? You're hovering so much, trying to see how your sick wife is doing. Ugh.
Who does that?
See if she needs anything while you're out. What's wrong with you? Fellas, is it gay to care about your wife? Yes,
Yes.
says Olivia. Is it gay to be a wife guy? Yes. Not that this man is a wife guy. Let us not besmirch the good name of wife guys.
Yeah, this guy has, like, vague motions towards being a wife guy, but that is the most you get out of him.
Anyway, it's time for a kidnapping. Fiona and the gays show up in, like, a Volkswagen van at an after party after the children's choir. Meanwhile, Margaret and Kevin build a very fake snowman and talk about the breakup via their snowman's respective feelings. I don't want to hold you back. I'm not good enough for you. Maybe the spontaneous thing to do is to give us another chance. And they kiss.
Oh, for God's sake. The word spontaneous just means nothing at this point.
It's just like a buzzword here that means this plot.
I don't think that word means what you think it means.
It really doesn't. Fiona's gay friends spill wine on Stacy's dress. They take her to the bathroom, and then they chloroform her. They straight up chloroform her, and then Fiona says, "Now it's my turn to switch."
Jesus Christ. Who did you say that for? She's already unconscious.
Because the movie's called The Princess Switch. There's this little gag that I kind of like where Fiona's pretending to be Margaret, is at the party. She runs into someone who's like, "Oh, Margaret, we went to Oxford together." And she's like, "Ah, yes, Oxford green. It's Oxford blue. I'm colorblind. Driver!"
The absolute non-effort that Fiona puts into being Margaret is pretty good.
Fiona's actually great in this movie. Reggie and Mindy eventually take Stacy, whom they think is Margaret, back to the old Pembroke estate and lock her in a cellar. So we've just fully kidnapped someone in this movie.
Yeah, this is just a kidnapping that has occurred. And pretty much everything that Fiona and the gays do from here on out, I'm pretty sure is a capital offense, up to and including attempting to usurp the throne.
Yeah. Back at the Montanaro Palace, Fiona just sort of like waltzes around the room and admires the jewelry. And then Margaret gets back being like, "Oh, Stacy, I'm so glad we switched places." And Fiona's like,
Like, you know what? I gaslit my way into the situation. I'm going to try and gaslight my way out.
She's like, "Why, Stacy, I don't know why you came here to talk about cheating on Edward with Kevin, but I'm Margaret. Go away."
This is the entirety of my argument for Fiona being the gaslight part of this equation.
It's true. The problem is that, like, someone is the gatekeeper, and I can never tell who in this equation.
I would say that Fiona is more of a gatekeep than Margaret is.
But then again, I believe all aspects of the Trinity can contain aspects of the other, as they are also, while they are also separate but part of the same whole. Of Vanessa Hudgens.
Vanessa Hudgens. Let's be entirely clear here. We are talking about Vanessa Hudgens and not anything else.
So as soon as Margaret leaves, Fiona calls up the gays and is like, "Oh, we are so screwed. We are so screwed. We grabbed the wrong Maggie. Something hecked up real bad." And the gays are like, "All right, great idea. Just move the coronation up to tonight so we can leave faster."
And then no one will think about it because we've moved too fast.
It's genius.
Yeah, because a multi-million-dollar event like a coronation can definitely be scooched up by like 12 hours.
Easy peasy, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm going to be the queen. I'm going to be in charge. I can say when things happen, right? I cannot stress enough that Fiona and the gays have one brain cell between them. Edward is finally told about the switcheroo. And here's the thing. His first response is, and it's cut off at the end, "Stacy promised me that she'd never..." What did she promise, Edward? What did she promise?
Stacy, what did you promise, Edward?
Did you promise that you'd never switcheroo again? Was it enough of a problem that he asked you to promise him to never do it again?
Why would she promise him that? Under what circumstances would that be necessary?
How often has this been an issue, Edward? Were they just switcherooing constantly in the early days?
Were they just doing this recreationally and you got sick of it?
And they kept not telling you? Did you just wake up with a different Vanessa in your bed? Edward, what kind of life have you led?
Stacy might be the gaslight after all.
So Edward is like, okay, let me do the math. Who's upstairs? Where is my wife? Where is my wife?
Please tell me where my wife is.
We get some quick panic thing where Fiona is like, I'm Margaret, Kevin, and I'm dumping you. Leave now and never return, and also take Olivia with you.
And Olivia's like, God damn it.
Stacy tries to break out, and while that's happening, Kevin and Olivia are already outside. They have packed their bags, and they are leaving in a car from the same castle everyone else is in without talking to any of them. They did not stop to say their goodbyes to anyone else, not even to Stacy, allegedly, to be like, hey, Margaret just dumped me. I have to leave now. Goodbye.
Don't worry about it.
Like, at no point has he met up with anyone who could say, that's not Margaret.
To be fair, Kevin is probably in a tremendous amount of psychological torment at this point. He's probably like reawakening memories of the gaslighting hell from the last movie.
Kevin has been messed up.
It's like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Kevin needs to go see a psychiatrist, a therapist, a psychologist. He needs help. He needs a care team. Also, they get in the car and they're like, take us to the airport, please. And who is driving the car?
Fake Santa.
It's the not Santa. It's the Montaneran imp. It's the cryptid. It's the mysterious old man from movie 1.
Who this time around appears to be credited as Elfman?
Elfman! What happened? You escalated this. God damn it. Elfman? What does that mean? We don't even do a thing where he takes off a hat and it reveals that he's had pointy ears this whole time. We're not doing that. He's just this guy again. Who are you?
Who is this?
Do you live here? How do you know things? Why are you so invested in these characters?
I am now like firmly on the side of this guy is like a time traveler dedicated to ensuring Olivia's rise to power.
He's gotta be. It keeps coming up in those situations. God. The others figure out that it's Fiona up there. And then they try to, like, delay the coronation that's been moved up while everyone else is going to, like, drive out and find Stacy. Meanwhile, Antonio or Anthony or whatever, you know, the other guy from earlier in the movie, he's here now. And he's like, oh, you're not Margaret, you're Fiona. You have a tattoo on your hand. You really ought to have covered that up with, like, a little bit of makeup.
How is he the only one that noticed this?
She's just so spontaneous. She just went out and got a tattoo today. And he's like, okay, you're probably here to just get money from the royal coffers. Make me a partner. I'm going to blackmail you. Margaret never has to know anything.
I love that he rumbles the scam immediately. Not you're going to usurp power from the queen, but yeah, you're probably just going to like steal some money and get the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah, you're a fancy gay idiot. You don't want to be in charge of things. Everybody arrives at the old Pembroke estate. Meanwhile, one of the gay friends has brought a sandwich and a mug that clearly has nothing in it with how he's moving this tray around. Down to the cellar. Stacy has set up a Home Alone trap with some barrels. Anyway, she makes a wacky escape. I also forgot that they dressed her up like Fiona.
Why?
Like, Fiona put on Margaret's clothes. Then they put Fiona's clothes on an unconscious who they thought was Margaret, who was actually Stacy. I think they did her makeup, too. This is a strange film.
Very strange film.
They go to the cathedral. It's empty except for a bishop and a prime minister.
What is the state religion of Montanaro?
What's going on here?
The next one implies it's Catholicism, but we're not sure.
Surely it's Catholic, considering the third film.
Yeah, considering the third film?
You would think so, yes.
However, it's extremely confusing. Kevin gets the runaround from the mysterious old man who takes the long way around to get to the airport to buy some time. Who are you?
Who is this?
The Vanessas Hudgen all convene at the chapel. There are now 3 of them here. Antonio tries to be like, arrest that woman who's Margaret, really, but isn't look like Margaret. Please arrest the wrong Vanessa.
Just arrest all the Vanessas and let God sort them out.
And then Fiona finally admits that she's been doing crimes, tries to blame Antonio for it. It turns out the gays are already in prison. And Margaret is like, no, I'm really the real Vanessa. I'm the actual Margaret. I'm the one who's actually, like, going to be a queen tomorrow. Arrest Antonio and throw him in the dungeon. They have a dungeon?
Theoretically somewhere, yes. In the palace, debatable.
And then Fiona is like, all right, listen, I didn't technically kidnap Margaret because I actually kidnapped Stacy. So, like, am I really in trouble?
Yeah, I technically didn't do treason.
So, like, what is a crime, really? Attempted kidnap? I don't know about that one.
It's just attempted treason.
Just some light treason.
Yeah, which I did look it up. Attempted treason is still treason.
And then she's like, well, you know, my parents despised me. And I've always wanted to be you, because I could never be half of what you are. You're the only real family I've ever had. The only one who truly cares. And they're like, well, I guess we could get her a reduced sentence. And you know she's just pumping her fist off panel.
Yeah. Reduced from, let's be clear, execution.
Yes. To lots of community service.
Nepotism, baby.
And then someone finally says we need to talk about Kevin.
Which sounds like a horror film. We need to talk about Kevin.
We need to talk about Kevin as like a thriller or something, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I think it is, yeah.
I was like, Mackenzie's surely being facetious about that because it is, in fact, it's a psychological thriller film called We Need to Talk About Kevin.
Oh, so it is.
And Fiona drops the line like, he's probably on the way to the airport with that small person. And they're like, his daughter? And she's like, I
I love the idea that Fiona doesn't know what a child is.
And like everyone else runs off distracted by romance drama. And Fiona just like looks around and then just walks away.
And is presumably apprehended at a later date.
Unfortunately. But I kind of love the idea that she just like exits stage left. Bye.
Yeah, everyone forgot that I was under arrest, so I'm just gonna go.
So the mysterious old man drops Kevin and Olivia off at the teeny tiniest little airport where it turns out there is a direct flight from Montanaro to Chicago, Illinois.
I call bullshit.
Honestly,
O'Hare's not that well connected.
I'm saying it was put in place because, you know, the current princess is from Chicago.
Okay, you know what? That's a good no prize. I'll go with that because she was absolutely jet-setting between Chicago and Montanaro. I will give you that.
I don't know. I still love the idea that, like, they would have to route through Amsterdam Schiphol instead. And so the actual climax of this film takes place in Amsterdam Airport, which is a fucking nightmare. Like they're trying to have their big romantic confrontation while rude Dutch people keep shoving past them.
Can you imagine, though, like, the size of this airport, the size of the jet that it could actually, like, have, goes directly to Chicago?
That sounds like a Buddy Holly situation to me.
Everyone arrives, they stop Kevin from getting on board, they explain the situation, they immediately make up, Margaret proposes. And also, there's a priest buying, I thought it was something from the duty-free shop, which would have been funnier, but it's just a coffee.
That priest is loading up on duty-free vodka.
And so they're like, hey, priest, hey, ostensibly Catholic priest, you want to do a 5-minute church wedding? That's definitely up your alley, right?
Psst, do you have to do this now?
Like, yes, right now. They're like, oh, my flight's boarding. And Stacy tries to be like, I'm sure they could hold it. And then, like, they completely ignore that line. They're just like, no, plow ahead, wedding now, do it, then jump on your flight. Luckily, Kevin bought a ring last summer and he's been holding on to it for 6 months. His ex-girlfriend's ring, just putting it in his pocket. Man, Kevin.
Oh, Kevin, you need help.
Kevin.
Kevin needs an intervention of some kind.
He really does. So they go back to the cathedral. They've just gotten married. They're married now. They're husband and wife. Olivia's rise to power is secured once more.
She's going to be feeding them both contraceptives in their food for like the next 30 years.
Olivia's going to start making out the legal adoption paperwork herself, start writing out the wills that name Olivia the legal and undisputed heir of Montanaro.
She's going to be quietly having some executions take place in the background to secure her position.
She's going to get one of those charts of the entire royal family and just start slowly arranging accidents. We're not going to have another one of these things where the king dies and the prince doesn't care enough. Oh no.
Oh no.
Not again.
She is pruning that family tree, goddammit.
We go back to the church for the actual coronation where there's actually people in attendance here. Everyone's in very dumb royal fancy dress. Stacey and Edward wrap up their little, like, I'm not seeing my wife enough and that makes me sad subplot.
That was not really a subplot.
They try to have Stacey be like, I felt like I needed to be really good at princessing. Honey, you have not done this whole movie. Where have you been? What are you talking about? This isn't.
You have not done a single princess thing this whole fucking movie.
No. Margaret gets a nice dress for her coronation. She looks pretty. She also passes a whole bunch of people in the audience. And Kit, here's the thing. You remember the Christmas Prince cameo from the first one with the let's watch the movie?
Oh my god.
Those characters show up.
Why?
They are here. They are real. They have a baby from the third movie.
These take place in the same universe, but they watched their movie.
We saw that movie. Those weren't actors that were lookalikes. Those were the real people. Those were the same people.
Oh god, reality's collapsing.
Yep. Margaret gets coronated. Fiona's attendance flanked by police officers. That's the end of this one.
That's the end of 2.
Now for Romancing the Star. I'm still like, the second one is just nothing. There is so much nothing in this one.
Yeah, it takes a while to talk about, but like nothing happens in it.
It's weird because the first one is absolutely nothing, and this one is a different flavor of nothing. We have to switch again.
And then we get this third one, which is them going like, hey, what if we just went completely buck-fucking wild?
Like, Vanessa Hudgens is like, I want to be 3 Vanessas again.
But also, I want us to focus on the most interesting Vanessa so that I get to do drag queen shit this whole movie.
She's just having like a Shalon Devar moment here. It's incredible. So we open with a storybook version of the first 2 movies. The last one was animated. This one is just clips.
I think Olivia's narrating this one.
No, it's still Stacey.
Okay.
Olivia has not yet insinuated herself into being in charge of the movie, much in the same way that the Swan Princess sequels eventually just focus entirely around their, like, adopted daughter or whatever. Now, there's an international Christmas fair that Stacey and Margaret are running. Or something. We're never going to go to this Christmas fair. We're going to see a concert later, but it's unclear what they're running. The important thing is that the Vatican is here, and they have loaned us a holy relic for this.
Don't worry about it.
That we're going to put on top of a Christmas tree, because that's what holy relics are for.
Yeah, it's called the Star of Peace. A priceless relic that once belonged to Saint Nicholas himself.
Which, if you know anything about Saint Nicholas, the idea of him, like, owning and carrying around this gigantic, gaudy piece of shit is hilarious.
I love the idea of calling it the Star of Peace and associating it with a man who, one of his most famous acts was punching a heretic at the Council of Nicaea.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Saint Nicholas predates the practice of having a Christmas tree by a bit.
You know, he's got a Star of Peace. Put it on a tree or whatever. We're not going to talk about the fact that it's a holy relic from the Catholics.
There's a bishop here. He's black, so you can feel less awkward about the Catholic Church as a colonial entity.
He's also attended by Vatisec, which I guess is Vatican security.
Also, the Swiss Guards are here.
They're presenting the star as an entity, Vatisec, but they're also in, like, pantaloons.
Yeah, those are the Swiss Guards.
Yeah.
And the whole time they're carrying this piece of shit in its glass case, I'm sitting there going, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it. It'd be so funny, drop it.
Yeah, Cardinal Amoa is here for a couple of scenes. Don't worry about it. Most of this is going to take place at the Montanaro Palace. None of these sets are really going to be the same as the castle from last time, because, you know, whatever.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Kevin and Margaret are, like, doing a whole bunch of royalty things. They get FaceTimed by Olivia, who is at a ballet academy in New York City and is flying into Montanaro for Christmas. And that's why Olivia's not in much of this movie.
A lot of the characters are not in this movie very much, except for Fiona and her gay friends.
I'm guessing part of this is the fact that it turns out this movie came out in 2021. So it was filmed right on the heels of the last one. So 2021, there were some specific rules about bubbles and how many people could be filming movies and together in the same room. So they probably had to work around a lot of shooting schedules for, you know.
Also, the fact that, like, the title Prince Consort Kevin is just incredibly funny to me.
Prince Consort Kevin. Oh, God, you're right.
Prince Consort Kevin Delacour, because he would be taking her last name.
Obviously.
Because she's the reigning monarch. So, yeah, Prince Consort Kevin, who presumably does not get to run a bakery in Chicago anymore. He's just uprooted his whole life.
Yeah, him and his daughter, who is now going to New York City, so it's not like she's even keeping any ties with Chicago.
Yeah.
Bakery's done.
He doesn't get to see his family over Christmas.
No. Stacey and Edward are also in here. They're on the phone. I think they call the Queen of England or something because they're mentioning corgis.
Which, yeah, this being 2021, she would have been in no condition to be traveling internationally.
No.
2021 might have been firmly in the zone where there was rumors that she was dead and that they were puppeting her corpse around like a Weekend at Bernie's situation.
Oh, what a time that was.
Oh, God. The crabs. The crabs!
Edward is like, gosh, wife, I'm here in this movie too, aren't I, Stacey? And she's like, you sure are. And he's like, we make a great team, just like your Chicago Red Sox. And she's like, it's White Sox, babe. And it's like, yes, the good baseball team from Chicago, the White Sox. What a great baseball team. That's the one. That's the team. And it's like, I feel like that's a joke that they did not even intend on that particular level.
No, they were just Googling Chicago baseball team and they figured, okay, White Sox sounds, we could do a joke with White Sox and Red Sox, and so therefore we're not going to mention the Cubs.
But it's just like we make a great team like the White Sox. We're always trying. My uncle's a White Sox fan, I can say that. My uncle is the White Sox fan. He's the only one.
Yeah, he's the singular White Sox fan.
He's the only White Sox fan. It's just him. The Vanessas are like doing auditions for, I guess, a talent show they're doing for this Christmas fair or something. It doesn't matter. There's a recurring gag with a yodeler, which is like when they make recurring gags with bagpipes where it's like a word they say where they're instantly like, ha ha, that sucks, right? No. You hear the yodeler at the end, and she's lovely.
Yes. And let's be clear, the things like yodeling and bagpipes, they are funny for reasons that do not pertain to them sucking. In fact, when they're good, that's even funnier.
It's true. But they are interrupted from talent auditions by Inspector Moretti, the superintendent of police, who says there's been a crime.
Who the fuck opens with that? And then we just hard smash cut to, like, the basement vault of the museum.
It's a vault! It's got the big door and everything!
It's got the big door and everything!
The Star of Peace has been stolen. The guards were knocked out by, like, a gas or something, and the security tapes were wiped. Interpol wants to keep the investigation confidential, so don't tell the Cardinal.
Yeah, don't tell the Catholic Church whose thing this is that was stolen.
Both of the husbands are distressed. Edward's like, there were crown jewels stolen my grandfather's day where everyone got in trouble and almost got executed or something. That's probably fine.
My grandfather was almost overthrown. Why wasn't he, Edward? What did he do to keep from being overthrown, Edward?
What happened, Edward?
What happened, Edward?
How did you quell the masses, Edward?
Peasants are revolting.
They've always been revolting, Prince. But now, they're rebelling.
Does this have anything to do with the fact that all of the lower classes in your country are Irish, Edward?
Edward, what happened?
Weird how that happens, Edward.
Isn't that a funny story?
Were there some troubles, Edward, perhaps?
Isn't that a funny story, Edward? Edward, have you ever heard of a modest proposal?
Edward, have you ever had a bomb threat against you?
Edward, it's interesting how you're not spending Christmas in your own kingdom.
That is interesting, Edward, isn't it?
It's interesting, Edward.
Is there a particular code phrase that people might use, Edward, when they are calling it a bomb threat to you? Just to make sure it's genuine?
Oh God, oh God. Okay, look. It's been 8 minutes of movie at this point. And it's been 8 minutes, and Stacy is like, we have to go rogue. It's up to us for some reason. The cops can't help us.
It is up to exclusively us to solve this mystery.
It is up to 2 Vanessas to solve this mystery.
But you know what would actually help?
There's only one thing we can do.
Is if we had a third Vanessa.
What if we had the crime Vanessa? Which is great, because she's the only one left with personality, and it's going to slowly get sapped from her over the course of the movie.
Yeah.
Because, like, Stacy had lost most of her personality in the second one, and Margaret has been steamrolled by Fiona existing, so she's no longer the spontaneous one, she's just the nice one.
Yep.
Again, it has been 8 minutes, and they're already like, 3 Vanessa movie! 3 Vanessa movie!
I was waiting for them to introduce a 4th Vanessa, especially when they kept hiding her mom's face. I was like, if this turns out to be Vanessa Hudgens in old lady makeup,
God.
I'm gonna lose my fucking shit.
Oh, that would have been amazing! Why didn't they do that?
Because they hate fun.
Meanwhile, at the convent/orphanage, Fiona has been doing community service there for a year.
As an officer and a gentleman, you will be looking forward to a quick and noble death. But instead, an even worse fate awaits you. Tomorrow, you will be taken to a convent school outside Heidelberg, where you will spend the rest of the war teaching the young girls home economics. The humiliation will be unbearable!
I guess that's one of the orphanages that they sponsor.
It's never clear.
Fiona's doing mopping, but she's also doing it in, like, heels. She's glammed up her coveralls.
She is fucking serving mopping.
She's wearing a waist cincher with her coveralls.
She's got, like, a little, like, black sequined turban, I guess. I'm not sure what's happening here.
She's just serving while mopping. That's what's important here.
When they initially said that they sent her to a convent, I thought it was like an interesting thing where, like, you know, sometimes in cases where there were violent transfers of power in monarchies, the women who were the immediate siblings or daughters of the old king were sent to convents specifically because if you took religious vows, you could not inherit, and they would therefore no longer be threats to the new regime, while still not having to, like, publicly execute a bunch of women, which goes down badly sometimes. But that's not what this is. She's just mopping floors in an orphanage.
We put way more thought into this than anyone in the movie did. Margaret's here. Fiona is being summoned by the Mother Superior because Margaret's here to pick her up for Christmas. Margaret also mentions that Fiona's mother hasn't been seen in years. She's like, I'm really Fiona's only living family, except I guess her mother's also alive. And they're like, okay, let me give you a deadline. A Christmas deadline. Fiona has to be back by Boxing Day for a disciplinary committee hearing for her sentence. Also, we're not supposed to let Fiona leave, so
don't tell anybody.
Please be nice to us. Just keep it quiet.
Don't worry about it.
Later on, the Mother Superior definitely insinuates that she might get murdered if Fiona is gone. She says Hez will roll, but it's very unclear if she is speaking figuratively or literally.
Could go either way.
So we get back to the palace. Fiona is here. So are the gays. The gays were in, like, real prison or something, and they just say, I don't know, I pulled some strings.
But don't think too hard about them pulling some strings to get the gays out of prison.
I guess some royal pardons have been issued or something, maybe. Unclear.
Yeah, although it is implied they're going back.
Fiona's got a lead on someone who can help them find the treasure. She says he's the goat. and Edward doesn't understand that.
To be fair, that's also quite a dated reference by 2021.
Oh boy. Edward, it seems, does not understand what the youths were speaking back in, 2017.
I'm in favor of Edward being kind of a freak, because like I said, real-world royals are like poorly socialized zoo animals. Like, he should be even more of a freak. He should be asking, like, random homeless people on the street what they do for a living. Like, that level of out of touch.
Fiona and Frank, by the way, is like a character that's been in here a while. He doesn't really do anything, but he is a driver, so he sometimes shows up. He's the guy who took pictures of the Vanessas in the first movie. Don't worry about Frank.
He's here.
He's here.
He sure is here.
He has some wacky lines. They go to the countryside to, I don't know what kind of building this is.
It does appear to be a watchtower of some kind.
Okay. As an American, my brain just says, I don't know, some kind of castle anytime I see an old stone building that looks nice in, like, the European countryside.
It does appear to be some kind of outpost or watchtower that's been repurposed into a sweet bachelor pad.
Oh my god, this is such a man cave. It's got a jukebox. It's got a pinball machine. It's got a half court for basketball and tables full of LEDs and, like, equipment and microscope. It's a very eclectic attempt to, like, deliver a personality to this character.
And who this character is this is Peter Maxwell, but I immediately, like, started Spider-Man pointing at the screen because this guy is played by Remy He, who was a cousin Alistair in Crazy Rich Asians.
Ah. Like, it's been a while since I've seen Crazy Rich Asians. I knew he was in it somewhere, but I couldn't remember which one he was.
Alistair was the guy who was the movie producer in Taiwan, who was dating the actress with the really big tits.
Oh, I can feel all of you in all of me.
Ah, yes. Naturally. Big naturals.
Oh, those weren't natural.
This is Peter. Apparently he and Fiona are exes. We also find out later that they have basically been friends since they were kids. Peter is also here to be a real fucking busybody about Fiona's personal life with her family.
He's gonna get very involved.
Absolutely.
He is also basically the only guy who keeps this movie moving in any kind of direction.
Oh, he is.
That's true.
He keeps it going forward.
This movie is basically about Fiona and Peter. Everyone else is just kind of there.
Honestly, much to the detriment. Like, I understand that you already wrapped up the plot points for the other Vanessas, but, like, you should still have some Vanessa hijinks. 3 Vanessa hijinks. But, you know, then you have to composite a whole bunch of film together. And this came out a year after the last one, so they were on a schedule.
They had to get this done before people lost interest.
Peter's like, hey, I've been talking to your mom. She says you haven't been taking her calls. You should talk to your mom. Also, my father died last year, so you don't know how much time you'll have left, so you should call your mom. That's really awkward, bud. That's really fucking awkward, bud.
It's real fucking awkward, bud.
This is weird and invasive. So Fiona's like, well, anyway, we're here to do a heist.
Yeah.
My motivation here is because, well, I treated my cousin unkindly, so I thought I'd make it up to her.
I did try to usurp her throne, but only temporarily, so it's probably not a huge deal.
And I didn't even technically kidnap her. I kidnapped someone who's not related to us, but resembles us exactly.
So it's definitely not treason.
I just kind of kidnapped a random baker from Chicago. Don't worry about it.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. Unkindly.
Peter, we find out, used to be Interpol. He is now appears to be running his own security company. Whether it's out of this bachelor pad watchtower, unclear.
He's got a computer table that can display graphics on it.
Yeah, the effects budget on this movie is significantly higher now that they don't have to do a bunch of Vanessa's Hudgens all in a bunch of shots.
That's true. They put the Vanessa budget into tech budget. And so Peter's like, well, I've already done some research so we can get this movie going.
Please, can we get the actual plot going?
I traced the drug for the guards to a supplier in Geneva. I hacked security cameras to find someone buying this gas or whatever. And I zoomed and enhanced the security feed to get a guy who works for an old friend of yours, Hunter Cunard, the billionaire hotel tycoon.
Because billionaire hotel tycoon is definitely a real string of words you use to refer to a person.
In casual conversation.
In casual conversation, no less. I do love that, like, the big reveal of the zoom and enhance is, who's that? Well, he's this specific guy, but that doesn't matter because he works for somebody else.
Yeah, they like show the face and it's like, who's that? I don't know. He works for somebody else. He's not the actual guy we care about.
I feel like you could have streamlined this flow of information somehow.
But we wanted to show zooming and enhancing because you have to zoom and enhance in a heist movie. So Peter packs up all his little tech or something and comes back to the Montanaro castle to talk to all three of the Vanessas and their boys together. And he's like, Hunter's secret obsession is collecting precious items that aren't for sale. To say he likes stealing shit.
He likes stealing shit. You could just say he steals shit.
He's a collector. He's a thief. He likes robbing stuff. He's rich. He's a billionaire. We don't have to worry about his morals. We already know what they are.
Fuck billionaires.
Yeah, like, to be fair, most of the art collectors in the world, they're interested in owning stuff that's not for sale.
Once again, Dr. Jones, we find that there is nothing you can possess which I cannot take away.
That belongs in a museum. So do you.
And they're like, okay, thanks. Let's take this to the cops. And they're like, no cops.
And everyone's like, we can't take this to the cops. Because otherwise there's no movie.
No cops. Hunter has friends in the cops. We have to handle this ourselves by stealing it back.
I was not expecting this movie to tackle, like, police corruption by the wealthy.
I mean, it kind of does it like just in, well, we need a very flimsy reason for you to do this yourself. He's paying off the police.
This raises several questions about police corruption in Montanaro that we are not going to answer.
No.
We're not going to worry about it.
What is the police force like in Montanaro? Don't worry about it. Because this is a Christmas movie, Hunter hosts a Christmas party every year. There's one this Saturday. There's lots of people coming and going. Hunter and Fiona, according to Fiona, they had a bit of a steamy.
This is yet another oblique reference to f***ing in this movie.
It's weird how often this happens. They're like, okay, we need to get an invitation to the party. We're going to orchestrate a sequence where Fiona will run into him while walking his dog.
This, by the way, does not work. I don't know why this is here. This movie's already 2 hours long.
It's a whole cul-de-sac. Edward is like, wait a minute, didn't you work for Interpol? And he was like, yeah. And Edward's like, didn't you leave because you got charged with a big diamond theft?
And he's like, the charges were cleared in a way that it is never made clear whether he actually stole those diamonds, by the way.
Again, we just bring up the diamonds, we leave. We have to keep moving. We have to spend a whole lot of time with a wacky dog scene.
Why is this wacky dog scene here?
The wacky dog scene doesn't work. I'm just going to mention here that, like, Fiona got loaned a big, cute dog named Pugsley. He's like a big Great Dane or something. He's enormous and I love him.
Yeah, which she says, this is not a dog, this is a Bigfoot, which I feel like she should have said, this is not a dog, this is a horse.
Yeah.
That feels like that would be the line in that situation. In a movie that is entirely built on, like, stock lines, this feels like a weird exception.
Hunter, we also see his dog is his little fluffy boy. He's his little fluffer dog. Hello, I went to pet him. Anyway, the scene doesn't work. They don't meet up. Fiona gets plunged into a bush or whatever because the dog chases a squirrel. And then there's a quick thing where Peter is like, there's a plan B at a boutique hotel. This wouldn't work. He's going over to Xmas Decor tonight. And here, you have a leaf in your hair. Let me just pick it out there and cradle your cheek.
Yeah, this didn't need to be here. Even the chemistry moment didn't need to be here because there's plenty of others.
No. Yeah.
This movie's 2 hours long.
So they go to this party. Fiona's going to get his attention by posing sexy with Santa Claus and then sucking on a candy cane.
Fair. Sure. That would get my attention.
Yeah. Hunter and Fiona chat at a bar. Hunter asks about Peter and Fiona's like, Peter. I hate him so much. He's on mic. I hate him.
Peter's watching from across the room.
Really creepily, by the way.
It's weird.
Peter is really intense. He looks like a weirdo. Fiona finagles a party invitation. There's something about selling the old Pembroke estate, but that's not really a thing. She gets the invitation. Oh, you owe me a tango because they like dancing. Hunter definitely wants to have sex with her.
Yeah, Hunter is quite possibly the only person in these movies who fucks.
He is horny. He is so horny. They drive away and Peter's like, I'm not jealous. How dare you? Answer your mom's phone call.
And Fiona's like, I won't, and hangs up. But not before remembering some shit from school.
It's this weird little, like, fade-in flashback. Like, it starts with, like, a superimposed image off to the side of the screen, like it's a Sears photo.
The filmmaking.
Like it's a Sears family photo.
Oh, God.
And we go to this tiny flashback to this boarding school with a little Fiona that's like, oh, but Mummy, you said we would get together for Christmas. I gave you a Christmas card that I made, Mummy.
This is, by the way, a co-ed boarding school?
Yeah.
Unless one of these kids is trans.
Actually, do we see any other boys besides Peter?
Peter is the only boy I think we see at this school.
I'm not taking it off the table. Peter's like, oh, I'm also staying here for Christmas. It's so sad to be us. And the mom in the flashback is just like, oh, I've got to go. Bye.
Yeah, we later find out that she was constantly fleeing the attentions of her abusive husband. That is not the vibe you get from this scene at all.
No. Put a pin in that one. Anyway, it's time to plan a heist again. Although, real quick, we do find out by looking at her hanging up the phone that Fiona's background for her phone is just a selfie. And I love that for her.
It's really good. Fiona is such a fun character to watch specifically because she's kind of terrible. And the fact that she gets less terrible over the course of the movie, unfortunately, also means that she gets significantly less interesting.
Yeah, again, like big Cruella de Vil energy. Like, best villain in Disney, hands down, does not give a shit. Horrible person, we love her. Although this one debatably does not want to skin dogs.
Well, she might want to skin one dog.
Oh boy. We get a 3D blueprint of Hunter Kennard's Montanaro estate.
Just a thing that Peter has.
Is this a free-floating hologram, or has he set up a big, like, clear acrylic screen?
Unclear. I don't remember.
And you know, this is a heist movie. There's cameras with easy spotlights so you can tell where the camera is at any given time. There's laser webs they have to, like, get through.
They do, like, the whole entrapment thing of, like, wriggling through the laser web with, like, slightly erotic dance movements.
They're like, Hunter does not hold himself to the law or any code of ethics, so if he catches you, he will kill you. We have to practice. We have to train for this heist. And Fiona's like, oh, but I have nothing to wear. Fiona's gay friends make fun of her for being sweet on Peter, while Fiona has another flashback about how, like, she and Peter are alone on Christmas, and they're like, of course your mother loves you, Fiona. It's like, buddy? You're really invasive about this, even as a child.
Yeah, hey, bud, shut the up. Mind your business.
Not your business. Let's make a promise on the North Star to never be alone, because we'll always be looking up at it together or something.
You may notice that we haven't talked about Margaret or Stacy or Edward or Kevin in a while.
I miss them. I miss them.
That's because they're not really in this movie very much.
They're really not. It's a bummer.
This entire second act is just Fiona and Peter and Fiona's gay friends. That's just what this is.
And you know, it's not like the gay friends get much substance either.
No.
It's still unclear as to whether or not they're even like her friends or not.
They're continually referred to as minions.
Like, are they her hangers on? Do they actually, like, care about her feelings? I don't think so. Speaking of the minions, they all get to practice stuff like hacking cameras or doing lasers or something. Gay friend number 1 is very bad at it, but Fiona does it like sexily to get underneath the lasers. She flips over a high beam. She and Peter have like a little like thing, I guess. And then he's like, let me text your phone. Meet me outside where I've summoned a helicopter. We're going to go on a helicopter date for some reason.
We're taking a helicopter specifically to another fucking Christmas village.
Just a rinky-dink little Christmas carnival, a third one, a completely different one. Where is it? Why did we need a helicopter to get here? There's a slight bit of tension where Margaret and Kevin are actually in this movie again. And Kevin's like, I guess they are cute together if you say so, Margaret. But, like, there's a storm moving in and they closed the airport.
Yeah, the rinky-dink little airport.
Yeah, they're not going to get caught in a helicopter storm or anything. That's not a thing. that was simply a way to get Kevin out of the movie for a while.
Yeah, Kevin just needs to leave the movie.
Yeah.
And this is why.
It's like, Olivia's flight was rerouted to Brussels, so I'll surprise her by picking her up myself. Okay, so it's an 8-hour drive to Brussels from Montanaro.
Where is this?
Where is Montanaro?
It's clearly on the mainland because he can drive to Brussels.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think this movie understands just how far you can get in Europe driving for 8 hours. Like, that's a lot of Europe to cover. You've passed through 5 different countries by that point.
Yeah, and it's like, US and Canada, it's like 8 hours is nothing. You might cross into another province or state. Maybe.
If this movie knew anything about anything, you could have had a fun moment where, like, an 8-hour drive seems completely normal to the American and is absolutely horrifying to the European.
Like, Margaret is just like, 8 hours? What are you doing?
There are people here in Newcastle who are horrified my morning commute is 45 minutes. They're like, how do you survive?
I keep hearing that about, like, people in the UK just treating, like, an hour's drive as though it is just, like, a nightmare, an impassable wilderness.
Yes, that is how they behave.
That is so wild.
It is a 20-minute drive to where I live, to city center Newcastle, and people act like I've moved to the boonies.
20?
20 minutes.
But that's nothing.
That's nothing. I'll drive 20 minutes for good pizza. I'll drive 20 minutes for okay pizza.
That's not even the length of a television show.
No.
Oh my god. Anyway, Kevin's like from Chicago. Kevin is a Midwesterner. 8 hours is nothing. He's like, whatever, I'll just be gone a day and a half, just going to an airport and turning around immediately.
This is something that's totally achievable for me. Don't worry about it. I'll drink a lot of coffee. By the end of it, I'll have to piss so goddamn bad. Don't worry about it.
I'm gonna buy a whole bunch of snacks at the gas stations.
It's going to be like 5 Monster Energies in the passenger seat. Olivia will have to kick the cans out of the way when she gets into the car. This is definitely something that the royal consort of a European country is allowed to do.
I'll light off a couple of 5-hour energies and Olivia will wake up while I'm screaming the poke rack.
Who did that? I don't know.
I don't know, Mackenzie. Who did that? So Kevin leaves the movie for a while.
He's basically not in the rest of the movie.
He shows up a little bit later, but not really to do anything. Peter and the gays are training by climbing the roof of the castle while Margaret and the Cardinal, who is in this movie again, have tea. And the Cardinal is basically here to be like, ha 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 ha, the star was almost stolen in the 16th century and lots of people died or something. No pressure, God's watching you.
Yeah, he specifically refers to the King of Caledonia. Caledonia is just a part of Scotland.
I figured it was another fictional country that was maybe, usurped and enfolded into, like, Montanaro or Genovia or something.
Nope, Caledonia is a real place.
So this is some messed up cosmology, huh?
What does the map of Europe look like in this universe? I'm upset.
And there's another fake country because this takes place in the same world as A Christmas Prince.
Oh my god.
How many small European kingdoms are there now? Do you think they just started whittling away pieces of, like, Germany?
We're not getting into the fact that, like, Montanaro sounds like it should be a Mediterranean nation, and yet, judging by the weather, clearly is not.
And again, their royal family is a Filipino woman.
Yes, despite the fact that every Montanaran person we see is white.
They're f***ing around on the rooftop. One of the gays falls and breaks his leg and, like, has to have, like, a neck brace and stuff. So now he can't do the laser stuff. And they're like, oh no, we need 2 people to get around the security. Mindy, who is the other gay, is going to be doing cameras. And Fiona has to distract Hunter at the party. Fiona can't be in 2 places at once. Can she?
Hey, remember how there's, like, multiple Vanessa's Hudgens in this movie?
There's 2 additional Vanessa's Hudgens in this room. And Margaret's like, wow, I did switch places with Stacy once. Twice.
You did do that twice, Margaret.
There were 2 other movies.
There's 2 other movies, Margaret. And, like, you're just waiting. Like, this is a lot of lead up for them to finally get to the decision where, oh yeah, we got to do the princess switch thing again because the movie's called the fucking princess switch.
Switch again. We have 3 Vanessas. We can't just have them do other things. And at this point, you're like, well, is this movie basically just going to be about Fiona? And they're like, oh, wait, shit. We have to have them switch at some point.
Better have a reason for them to have to do that.
Fiona's like, Maggie could never be sexy enough to keep Hunter's attention, at which point Margaret does a Fiona impression and does the Ruby Rod bzzz. So that's probably going to be fine.
She'll be okay. There's like a whole montage for this because you have to have a montage for this.
At some point, Fiona and Margaret tango together, which is like, good work, composite guys. This is pretty much your whole budget here.
I can imagine them being told, yeah, we want a scene where they tango together, and they're like, you want what?
Oh yeah, really close, bodies, heads facing the same direction, so we can't use body doubles?
Yeah, it's like, oh, hang on, I gotta make some phone calls to the guy who worked on Orphan Black.
Fiona and Peter have a little tango together at some point because they have to have sexual tension or something. They do a post-makeover with Margaret, and now she looks like Fiona. And then Peter is like, hey, real Fiona, do you want to spend some time together after this? And she's like, eh. And then Peter decides to just tell her what her problem is for the movie's, like, internal, like, conflict.
Yeah, all of these movies are just like people either like perfectly clocking each other's psychological problems or perfectly clocking their own psychological problems and explaining them in perfect detail. It is, ugh.
It's not subtle. Peter is like, hey, anytime you start to feel something for someone, you pull away from your family that you don't talk to. You should call your mom. You left me because you had feelings for me, and it scared you because your mom abandoned you. Peter, chill.
Hey, Peter, shut the fuck up.
Hey, Peter, that's not your business. Okay, finally, it's time for the party.
Finally, we get to do a fucking heist.
Finally, we get to do the heist. The minions and Fiona and Peter are all in cat suits.
Frank is there.
He's a driver, I guess.
He's the wheelman, apparently. He specifically told Peter, I want to be your wheelman.
We don't have to talk about Frank.
Frank's just kind of here. Don't worry about Frank.
Frank is here. Margaret and Stacy are like, goodbye. Have fun switching. And then Stacy's like, oh no, now I also have to do a switch because the disciplinary committee now wants to review Fiona tonight. Isn't it like Christmas or something?
It is.
Like Christmas Eve?
It's like Christmas Eve.
Christmas deadlines, goddamn. We can't do this on Boxing Day. We have to do this tonight, now.
I was sitting there going, they're going to come up with some reason why Stacy also has to do a switch, aren't they? And then, like, on schedule, it was like, yep, we got it.
The Mother Superior is panicking and is like, they will kill me. They may cut off my head if I reveal that Fiona is not actually here. Please save me.
Yeah, it turns out we're not supposed to check out our inmates like they're a fucking library.
And she's only doing community service here, so it's like, is she in prison? If only we had a spare Vanessa Hudgens lying around.
Edward seems deeply freaked out by this concept, by the way.
Oh, yeah. And Stacy's like, oh, I don't want to do this either, honey, but oh gosh, they're just twisting my arm while she's just putting a wig on.
Oh no, I definitely don't want to pretend to be fabulous, she says while putting on the blonde wig.
So Margaret, dressed as Fiona, enters the party. She's got a little dress. The burglars get on the roof with a grappling hook. Stacy changes back into the coveralls and heads off to the convent. Hunter is here and he's talking about his penis.
Again, Hunter is like the only guy in these movies who fucks.
He fucks.
Would you like to see my Christmas tree? He means his dick.
He means his dick.
He fucks.
He means his dick. We'll cut back to Fiona after some hacking, and she's fondling the balls on Hunter's Christmas tree. Ornaments. But, like, weird that the movie gets a little horny here.
Here and now of all places.
Here and now of all places. The gays all get in, and they have to hide when Hunter, like, gets into his office or something, takes a bracelet out of a drawer, then presents it to Margaret Fiona. Edward tries to plead Fiona's case at the disciplinary hearing, while Stacy as Fiona's like, yes, I'm sorry, I did a crime and treason.
I am truly reformed. I definitely feel bad about the kind of treason that I did. Is it still treason if it's a noble from a different country? Or is that just an act of war? Unclear.
Hunter gives Margaret a bracelet that he definitely stole, and he's like, hey, let's go get those earrings upstairs that I left in my bedroom and have sex. Sexy sex.
And then Margaret as Fiona is like, oh wait, but you want a tango, right?
And then we do this back and forth with like, Vanessa Hudgens wanted to have a really long sequence where she both did a sexy laser heist and also a sexy tango scene.
Yeah. Vanessa, have you considered that maybe you would want to do this in a movie that's not a Christmas rom-com?
No, Vanessa saw her in and she took it. The hearing goes off. They're like, gosh, we're impressed by your remorse. You're really not the same person we met before. And Stacy is like, I am definitely not that same person. That is correct. Fiona gets through the lasers, they cut the wires, they turn off the lasers, they grab the star, but an alarm goes off on a pressure sensor.
They didn't think that there might be a pressure sensor under the thing.
You forgot the damn pressure switch, didn't you?
They didn't think it. It's in every movie. They forgot. They managed to stave off the alarms for a little bit, but the gays, meanwhile, who are running the cameras and stuff, all panic and decide to leave. And as soon as they turn off the laptop that's hacked into the cameras turn on and it's like, oh, the star is gone. Oh crap, sound the alarm.
Then Peter's like, hey, you guys escape. I will distract Hunter so you can escape safely.
Take this bag.
Take this bag that definitely has the star in it.
And it doesn't feel like there is perhaps a regulation basketball inside.
Definitely don't feel this bag too closely.
This big, round, spherical bag that has a star in it.
Don't worry about it.
Margaret leaves. She gets to the entrance, and then someone, we don't see them for a moment, says, Your Majesty, your cape that you entered with.
Oh my God.
Puts the cape on her. And as We Wish You a Merry Christmas instrumental starts playing for the audience, he turns around and it's the mysterious old man from the other two movies.
Who is this?
Who is this?
What is he credited as this time?
Elfman, who are you?
Yeah, is he credited as Elfman again? I have to check.
He is.
What is he credited as this time?
He is credited here as Elfman. Who are you?
Jesus fucking Christ, who is this?
Who is this? Why is he here? What are you doing? Why is this? This doesn't even have much to do with Olivia, really.
Who are you?
Why are you doing this? What is your investment here? Are you a spirit? When you say elf, do you mean like one of the fey creatures of the countryside? Which court are you, part of the Seelie or unseelie?
Is Olivia your chosen ruler for the country?
What is your aim, old man? This is the only time he's in this movie. We'll never get an explanation for him.
Not unless they do another one of these, and even maybe not even then.
Maybe not even then. God. Anyway, Margaret leaves. This guy doesn't even save the day. He just hands Margaret her coat.
Yeah, there's no reason for him to be here.
Fiona gets picked up by Frank and the gays. Peter leaves a business card on the weight sensor.
This doesn't go anywhere.
No. The three Vanessas meet up. They are all dressed like Fiona now, and not all of them know why.
Like, Stacy, why are you also dressed as Fiona?
Well, a funny thing happened on the way to Christmas.
Edward is suffering.
Edward is having a crisis.
And then Kevin and Olivia show up, and Kevin is also suffering.
Olivia's here, and everyone looks like Fiona, and none of them have any context for any of this. They left before Margaret had to fill in.
Yeah, he has no idea that there's an entire Princess Switch plot happening right now.
Kevin has been, surprised by a switch again. He thought it was over.
There is no indication that he has had time to piss since he got back from this drive.
He's like, which one of you is my wife? What's going on? And Margaret just kisses him, and he's like, oh, okay, you're my wife. But can he be sure?
Can he be sure? He has slammed, several 5-hour energies by this point. He can see through time.
But he can't see through the blonde wigs. Fiona gets a text from Peter with a meeting place because Peter is MIA and they have discovered that the bag that was supposed to be filled with the star they heisted is actually filled with a basketball. They waited this whole time to even remotely feel the bag.
Fiona, I feel like you should have checked the inside of the bag earlier than now.
Fiona finds out that, oh, Stacy cleared her name, she's done with her sentence, and the gays are like, want to get on a flight to Capri, like now? And she's like, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I do.
We leave in the morning.
Yes. And by that, I actually mean, let's go to Manderston Academy, where I had my sad baby flashbacks.
So I can meet with Peter and he can yell at me for not calling my mom.
Like, Peter has done so much worse than that. He's like, if you want the star, you have to go talk to your mom. Right now, I've invited her here. She wants to speak with you. And someone has to force you to have a conflict with your absent parent, or you'll live an empty, hollow life. Peter?
Jesus fucking Christ.
Peter,
the hallmark really jumps out, huh?
This is so fucked up, Peter.
This is fucked, Peter. This is totally fucked.
This is so fucked up. This is so fucked up for you to do. He gives her the star anyway and is like, I'm leaving your life now forever.
This feels like the same level of like faintly Christian propaganda as the whole, oh, you two would make such a cute couple shit that we've been tolerating for 3 of these movies now.
Except it's the other angle of the Hallmark Christmas movie pornography, which is everyone loves and respects and speaks earnestly and openly with their parents. And even if there's a conflict, the parent can be, oh, I never meant to hurt you. I just love you so much and I'm so proud of you.
The family as God.
Yeesh. So, honestly, Fiona goes to see her mom, and this, I feel, is shockingly complex, and it is actually written in a way that I don't necessarily think is the best way this scene could be written, but it handles this with much more complexity than I have expected from any of these movies thus far.
Yeah, like this was surprisingly competent.
Yeah.
Especially when it came to the acting. Like, oh, Vanessa Hudgens underneath that accent is actually doing kind of a good job here. It's not good, but it is like more competent than you would expect from this movie, especially considering what we spent the last 45 minutes of it doing.
Yeah, this wasn't building up to a mother-daughter story. This has been a heist movie until now.
This is just kind of here.
And suddenly, we have a mother who is, like, clearly insufferable, but also experiencing genuine remorse. And Fiona attempting to express things that she has clearly had pent up for years of, like, you abandoned me and I was never good enough for you. And the mom being like, oh, there's actually no excuse for what I did. I was afraid of your abusive father.
Which is a very weird character twist for a guy who the joke was that he died of a peanut allergy.
Yep. She's even like, I traveled the world looking for inner peace, and on a retreat at an ashram in Rishikesh, I realized maybe I need to reconnect with my daughter or something.
Took you that long?
Yeah. So, like, she's clearly kind of awful in the same way that it seems like Fiona would probably be kind of awful at that age. And, like, it's weird, right? Because this is honestly a pretty decently written apology from a complicated situation.
Yeah, like, it's not the perfect apology. It's far from the perfect apology. And that's why it's surprisingly good.
Yeah. And she's like, can I get a second chance? And Fiona's like, no. Leaves. Goes outside to the gays who are like, hey, we have a flight to catch. What's up? Wait, are you crying? Why are you crying? I'm not familiar with you experiencing emotions. What's happening?
And then she tosses the star into the driver's seat and then goes back in, and the gays immediately start shouting, we can't drive this. I'm obsessed with the fact that none of Fiona's minions can fucking drive. That is the main reason they hang out with her, is because she's giving them rides to places.
Which is honestly very much believable.
Yeah, I buy that. I totally buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't even think this is a situation where they can't drive a stick. They just cannot drive, period.
They just cannot drive a car. They're European. They never had to learn.
So Fiona marches back in. She hugs her mom. And now we cut finally to our penultimate scene. The other Vanessas meet with the Cardinal to explain that they lost the Star forever, but then Fiona and her mom enter with the Star of Peace and we're like, we were polishing it.
And meanwhile, the Cardinal does not ask the most important question, which is, wasn't that supposed to be in like a vault or something?
It turns out Fiona's mom also flirts uncomfortably with Kevin.
I kind of love that.
Yeah.
I kind of love that too. Like, you know that bit from Parks and Rec where one of the characters is like, oh, she's the worst person I've ever met. I want to travel the world with her. That's me towards Fiona's mom.
I appreciate that she's the same kind of awful.
Yeah, Fiona's not going to get better with age. She's just going to get older.
All right, final scene. Let's bring this on home.
Hey, remember that fucking Christmas carnival?
Yeah, there was a Christmas celebration or something. The yodeler's here, and they're singing like Old Saint Nick, ho ho ho, who wouldn't go, or something, up on the housetop.
And then there's a yodeler, and it whips ass.
The yodeler's great.
The yodeling part whips.
Yeah. It turns out they mentioned that the police arrested Hunter Kennard trying to flee the country, so that loose end is wrapped up. Edward repeats that he and Stacy are a great team, and he can't quite think of their names, Batman and Catwoman.
You know, legendary partners, Batman and Catwoman.
And Stacy's like, they aren't a team. Well, technically The Dark Knight Rises did come out in 2012, so hypothetically he would have this in there, but this movie also came out in 2021, which is a year before Batman and Catwoman almost got married in the comics.
I don't think Edward is that up on DC Comics. I'm just going to throw that out there.
No. Fiona and her mom enjoy the party. Olivia gets to, light the tree or whatever. Olivia gets a tiara.
Olivia is referred to as Princess Olivia. Her ascent to power is assured.
She has been named the Crown Princess, the heir to the throne.
God, Empress of Montanaro.
And soon the world.
And soon the world, if not the galaxy. She's gonna be like a 12-foot tall worm with a human face, and it's gonna rule.
Would you still love Olivia if she was a worm? You better.
She's going to subvert a coup attempt by covering herself in fish. Don't worry about it. Dune's weird, guys. I can't wait for some of this stuff to try and show up in movies.
Fiona and her mom are enjoying the party. Her mom goes off to greet a guru, which is great. I love her. She's a mess. While Fiona sadly looks at the other Vanessas with their families and then looks sadly up at the North Star, and then Peter is here.
Fiona, please go back to being awful so you can be more entertaining than this.
God. And she's like, you're right, Peter. I do shut people out because it's always felt safer that way. And then something about impending mortality. Let's spend time together or something.
We don't know how much time we've got left together.
Which usually implies a very specific, different plot.
Yep.
Anyway, they do the tree lighting. The other two Vanessas are here. They light up the tree. There's fireworks. Vanessa Hudgens gets to shoot dramatic kisses with 3 different men.
Living the dream.
Living the dream in the same movie. Good for her. And then we reach the credits, and there's a dance number for, every scene.
Yeah, there's just a dance version of each scene that it's almost a blooper reel.
At some point, we turn around and take a quick shot of the whole crew who are all in masks.
That's right, folks. Guess when this was made?
Because this movie came out in 2021, and there was some stuff going on. And that's all 3 of the princess switches? Gaslight, Gatekeep, Girlboss?
Each of them gets a turn as each of the members of the Trinity.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of rotate each movie, really.
Yeah, they rotate through.
So Kevin's the true victim here, right?
Yes.
Kevin had to uproot his entire fucking life to become royal consort. And I don't know that he thinks that was the best decision to make.
Yeah, it seems like that wasn't something that he ever really wanted. Even if he wants to support her, he didn't really want the whole, royalty life. He very much valued spontaneity. And I guess here that means a stand-in for, personal freedom.
Which he doesn't have as Prince Consort. Driving 8 hours to Belgium to pick up your daughter from the airport is not something the Prince Consort of a nation is allowed to do.
He looks nice in a suit, at least. He gets a nice suit at the end.
Yeah, he's doing okay, I guess. But
yeah,
he's clearly not having a good time.
No. Do you think he just really needed to get away for a while from the 3 Vanessas?
He's like, actually, at this point, an 8-hour drive sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah. Can you imagine? He, listened to an audiobook, queued up some podcasts, sang in the car.
Got to listen to a bunch of music that Margaret's not into, so he doesn't really get to listen to it anymore.
Yeah. Good for Kevin. Folks, princess switches, they're bananas.
Honestly, you can kind of skip the first 2.
I wouldn't even say that you necessarily need the first 2 movies to inform you on the third.
They do recaps, you're probably fine.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of complexity there that you're going to miss.
Many Vanessa's Hudgeon. I also hope that I've really just driven that home, so you're not even realizing that I'm doing an internal pluralization joke here, and you just actually think that it really is plural Vanessa's Hudgeon.
Listen, if we have an opportunity to do the Attorneys General thing with, like, a compound word, we're gonna do it.
We love internal pluralization jokes on this show. Okay. It's time for the final facts.
Okay.
The finals fact.
The finals fact.
The finals fact.
Yes. Mackenzie, what's your final fact?
My final fact is that, honestly, why would you date a prince? They're all boring, they're all kind of inbred, and they all are boring. Again, just want to reiterate that.
That's how boring they are.
That's how boring they are.
That's how boring. They're boring twice. They're boring twice over. They are absolute freaks. They don't know how to socialize. And they don't know that the White Sox are the team that sucks in Chicago.
And you're just going to get so much fucking work that you have to do?
Yeah.
Ew.
And if you're a woman of color, you're going to have a bad fucking time.
Oh boy. Kit, what's your final fact?
Always get that executive producer credit.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Annie, what's your final fact?
If you've got a boring rom-com, just fuck up the cosmology with a mysterious old man.
Who is he?
Who is he? Where did he come from? Why is he here? Why was he in the third movie? Who are you?
I hope they keep going with the Princess Switch movies just so, like, we can have a final boss fight between, like, the mysterious old elf man and, like, God Empress giant worm Olivia. I want that. I want it bad.
Look, Jody was telling me that apparently Hot Frosty, the new one this year, with Lacey Chabert and a magic snowman, does take place in the Christmas Prince universe based on an offline. So, like, the story's continuing. Where is this mysterious old man? Does he come into play? Is he in any of these?
I'm just waiting for, like, the Avengers Endgame of the Netflix Christmas movies.
You think you're the only superhero in the world?
Just bring them all together. 4 Vanessas, 1 Lacey Chabert, the Christmas Prince people, they're all kind of bland. Have them all fight the mysterious old man who is secretly, like, I don't know, I'm not gonna say the Krampus, but, like, some kind of, like, dark elf who is destined to kill Father Christmas or something, right?
I just had a great idea for, like, a side RPG game.
That dark wizard from, like, the fucking Rankin Bass Christmas movies.
Exactly. He's got rain snakes. Bring Ethel Merman in.
Out of nowhere at the end, here comes Olivia with a steel chair. Her succession must be assured.
Oh, God damn it. Now I really want this movie. Fuck. Okay. That's gonna do it for us. Join us next time when we further descend into madness by reviewing more movies than we should in one episode.
Lucas, we're so sorry.
I'm not sorry at all, Lucas.
Our next one is going to come out at the beginning of February, and that one, y'all, it's the month of love.
It's the month of love.
It's Mackenzie's pick. Mackenzie, what are we doing next time?
I pick 3 more Romeos and Juliets.
We're doing it again. We threatened to do it, and now we're doing it again.
We're just going to keep doing it long past the point where it's funny.
Oh, yeah.
There's a never-ending amount of Romeos and Juliets. Join us next time for that, I guess. I Will Fight You comes out every 5 weeks. It is edited by Lucas Brown of The Math of You. You can find us wherever you download podcasts. You can find out more about us on our website, crookedrussian.cam or crookedrussian.cam. Fuck me.
crookedrussian.cam. That's a new one.
Cam.
Do I have to buy that one too?
I think I might have to. crookedrussiancam.horse or crookedrussiancam.gay. It's those two. It's not crookedrussian.cam. Unless I can find that domain.
Hang on. Don't currently offer .cam domains.
Okay, well, as soon as they do, we're on it. That's our website where you can find out information about I Will Fight You as well as our other shows. We are also on Patreon at patreon.com/thegem. For money, you can get early episodes of I Will Fight You. You can get show notes. You can get a bunch of other behind-the-scenes stuff for the other shows. It's a good time. I like it when you give me money so I can pay our editors. We like paying our editors. It's good to pay your editors.
They do very good work.
They do very good work. Thank you, Lucas.
We're sorry, Lucas, that this is another 3-hour one.
Thank you, Lucas. Blue Sky, crcpodcast.bitsky.social. I might actually attach our domain name to that, so it might be .gay or .horse or something. That's down the line. We've got a Tumblr. Most people are abandoning Twitter at this point, because, the troubles have arisen again!
We are now once again entering what historians like to call the cool zone.
There's a lot happening. Just Google us. Website.
Google doesn't f***ing work either, Annie.
Yeah, well, good luck. We've got a Discord. There's a link to that on our website. There's some nice folks in there. Come talk to us. I think that's it. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Join us next time. And until then, I'm Annie.
I'm Kit.
And I'm Mac.
And we have fought you. Christmas is a time to focus on the Holy Trinity of Gaslight. Fuck! Christmas is a time to focus on the Holy Trinity.
Why are we crying?
Hmm?
Sorry, Hubert is crying right now.
Hubert, be quiet. We're trying to record.
What's the problem? We just want to throw a tantrum for no reason? Okay, well, chill.
Did a big raspberry there. That's for Lucas.
That's for Lucas alone. Discord noise cancellation told us that we weren't allowed to have that one. Oh, it's okay. My brother's a Maple Leafs fan.
Oh, bless.
Oh, yeah, bless his fucking heart. My other brother was over there, and he's an Oilers guy. So when he was visiting Jamie, I was like, what was it like for Jamie to watch a hockey game with a team that actually wins?
Yeah, for real. Ugh.
Whole John Denver discography, like all the way to Belgium.
Kevin needs this.
One of the weirdest experiences of my life is repeatedly hearing a bunch of English people singing along to Take Me Home Country Roads.
That's weird.
Yeah, West Virginia is not the place you people belong. Stop singing that.
What mountains?
No mountains, and with such passion too, such weird drunken passion.
What mountains?
It was always the closing number. Remember when I was living like right above that night open air like music club? That was always the last song of the night was Take Me Home Country Roads for reasons I don't understand.
What country? How puzzling. What a puzzling bit of cultural exchange.
Yeah, there's two songs that British people apparently go fucking wild for, and it's Take Me Home Country Roads and Mr. Brightside?
Really?
Why is it Mr. Brightside?
It started out with a kiss. How did it end up like this? That one.
That one, yeah. Off of Hot Fuss, an album that is about a guy who probably killed his girlfriend.
Fascinating. Okay. Holy shit.
That's a lot of information to process, I know.
I know. And we gotta run this one out.
Yeah, we've been at this for 3 hours now. We have to stop.
My brain's dying.
It's too much Princess Switch movies.
It's too much Switch. Fuck. Oh, right. Social media.